Good morning. It is May 7th. This is the Budget and Public Employees Committee. It is 9:39. Madam Clerk, please call the row.
Alderwoman Sanye. Vice Chair Browning.
Present.
Alderwoman Velasquez. Alderman Devotie.
Present.
Chair Aldrich.
Present.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Velasquez. 3 present.
Thank you. With that, we have a call to roll. Next order of business will be item number 4, Board Bills for Review, which is Board Bill number 1, which is a FY27 budget fiscal year budget. We are holding that, and we are going to item number 6, which is committee discussion. Today, we will hear from the Building Division, followed by Corrections, a small little break in between, Civilian Oversight Board, and we'll wrap up the day with the License Collector. To get started, we have the Building Division here. So if they want to come on up, whoever is presenting the budget, state your name, your title, and if you have any members here with you from your team that you want to introduce, and then you can jump right on in. There's a little button to turn that mic on, and we're also pulling up the presentation. There we go. No.
What about now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay,
Just make
good to
sure
go.
you speak into it.
Okay, how's everyone doing today?
Good.
So I am Tim Jeffries. I'm the acting building commissioner for the city of St. Louis. And I did bring a little team with me today. I will introduce, we have Dylan Moser, he's the deputy building commissioner. Marcus Sanford, he's our accountant. And John McLaughlin, program manager 2 over vacant buildings, problem properties, and so forth. So I guess we'll get right into this. So if we can see the first slide.
Laura.
That's not the first one. Can you go back one? There you go, the mission. Okay, I will start by just reading this to you, and then we'll talk about our mission. Building Division does enforce the city building code, issues building permits, conducts inspection, demolishes vacant buildings, and enforces the zoning code to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of St. Louis. And as a mission statement, that pretty much sums up what we do. There is some things that we do in the Building Division that probably need to be worked on as far as a mission of ours. If you have people are aware of some problems we've had, I think we have a good operations in place, but we probably need to do what we do better, maybe more efficiently as moving forward in the future. So that's, can we go to the next slide?
Next slide.
Okay, getting into the operations, the overview and the functions. We are broke down into 14 separate sections. As you can see here, inspections, trades, plan exam. A lot of these are to support what we do, which is code enforcement. So we're bound by the ICC building codes is what we adopt. We're on the 2018 cycle now. So when we adopt, the codes are adopted pretty much verbatim, and we change them within the abstract is where you change anything you see in the abstract is only the changes to the code. We don't adopt the appendix unless you specifically adopt it, which we do for the floodplain. I think that's one of the only ones we do. But we also have standalone ordinances like HCD, the cold air, mold, which some of those are more recent. Short-term rental, which is on hold right now. We have a hold on from a judge, and like rental registry. So we get into anything code-related enforcement. We take CSB calls too. For that's more property maintenance issues, and which in turn will get you back into the vacant buildings and some of the derelict properties. Okay, next slide, please. All right, we're going to talk about accomplishments. I made a short list. There's probably more than this, but this was kind of short-term for me. So we recently installed the pay a credit card system, which is now up and running. It's been there for a little bit. We now have it up and going. But because of the online building permits, which is new, I have that up there, Bluebeam software, I think the online's going really well. It's taken up a lot of probably the in-house credit card system, because you can pay online, you can download, upload plans and whatnot, and that's how we're rolling out for building permits at this time. We also, demolition of derelict buildings. We all know that the city has a lot of vacant buildings, a lot of problem properties. We try to take as many down as we can. When they're LRA, it's easy to do. You know, that's just us doing it for us. When they're privately owned, we get into more legal things. We can do it, but it takes a little more time to get through that. Also, within demolitions, we did have money left over, which we transferred. That's wrong. 3.4 million. We had 3.9 million left in demo, so we sent 3.4 to the tornado zone and kept 500 back, and we're using some of that as we speak now on the south side. Also, we do pay for the illegal unsafe structure at the homeless encampment at 10th and Cass. That the homeless encampment seemed to be a problem for us at times, but that was an illegal structure there, so we had to pay to get that removed. Okay, you go to the next slide. I think I'm going to bring Dylan up here. Come on up, Dylan. All right, Mr. Moser is going to present this section.
All right. And any individual just come up, just state first, last name, and just title within the department.
Dylan Mosier, Deputy Building Commissioner, Building Division, Department of Public Safety. Thank you for having us. Nice to see you all. So right here, we're looking at actually just a portion of the Building Division budget. If you would, go ahead and next slide real fast and then give it. All right, so yeah. And then why don't you bounce back if you would. So still big, still as complicated as ever. If we would go back one slide, I'm sorry. We had to break that apart into two separate slides. What you're looking at is a budget of approximately $32 million. It's spread out across 10 cost centers. The proposal will be for 217 FTE, though we currently have approximately 150 active employees. Despite a lot of variation that you're seeing across what was requested at the budget level and then is being proposed to you all, by and large, I'm actually going to kind of try to point out that this is not a major change year over year, what we're doing here. I'm going to highlight the very top fund and cost center, our 1,000 fund, some changes that you'll see there, as well as a couple things in the 1110 fund, 620002, and Fund 1121 620007, which is on the next slide. But yeah, why don't you pop over next slide if you'd be so kind. So, and one more, I apologize. Again, big arduous budget that takes up 2 slides to show everything. So yeah, our 1,000 fund, you do see more than $1 million in deviation between what was requested and what is being proposed. I'll start by saying that despite the cut of more than $1 million, we will be able to make that budget work. Largely it's because of kind of chronic understaffing. We wind up with a budget surplus just due to like salaries. Some of the things that did wind up getting nixed, and I think we'll still be able to pay for through and whatnot, will be, with the new online building permit system, we did hold off on kind of doing major upgrades to hardware such as larger monitors, different types of equipment that our staff would use to review plans. We held off on that to see how they, let them figure out what they think they need after they actually start actively using the thing. So we didn't just wind up investing in a bunch of stuff that people didn't wind up needing. There was talks of monitors that were this big and like this big, and that was a speculation at the kind of administrator level, but staff actually didn't really want that type of stuff clouding up their cubicle. So we do have some money set aside for buying new equipment, but we sort of want to make sure that it's what the actual staff wants to do their job the best because they know how to do their job. Other things that were sort of sliced out, again, still think we'll be able to pay for them, is we did go through an RFP a few months back to acquire a third-party plan review service company. And we do have, well, we did have $100,000 set aside to fund the contract with that company. So we did select a company as Safe Built. So what I'm talking about here is actually a company that whenever we're down on staffing or if we have a major backlog in building permit applications, we'll actually be able to throw to this company to help us do our work. So it's kind of I think of it as staff augmentation. You all probably heard your constituents talk about how long it was taking to get a building permit. Probably particularly you were hearing it a lot around 2023, 2024. Just why is it taking 60 days to get a building permit? We were down on staff at the time. We're actually doing pretty good staff level wise, but this contract will help us make sure that in the event that we're hit with hard times, or if there happens to be a construction boom for whatever reason, we'll be able to manage the load of applications that come in without needing to just necessarily hire more employees, ask for more employees, or, and then be left with excess staff, whenever that sort of boom subsides or what have you. So we got that. We also have some software development things. We will be acquiring a software known as Beam that will be utilized by our Office of Building Performance. It's an office that measures and sets standards for greenhouse gas emissions, for utility usage in the name of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. But again, despite sort of the major cut from 12.2 million to 11.15, we do still think we're going to be able to, make things work. Next slide, if you would. And again, as I stated, largely what I've seen over the years is, it's a budget surplus due to understaffing. Currently, we're at 62 vacancies. I think after close of business tomorrow, that becomes 63 vacancies. Half of that does come from our boots on the ground inspections workforce. So inspector 1, 2, and then the supervisor level. Being down 30 plus inspectors doesn't feel good. The vacancy rate is with the inspectors is on par with the amount of our workload or our staff that they make up. So, they make up about half of our staff. And so it makes sense that if we're down a significant number of vacancies, that it's about half of that, from that section. Next slide, if you would. Another major change that you're going to see out of 2 cost centers is just a significant amount of money put in preparation for increasing the number of demolitions that are going to have to occur this year associated with the tornado. So what you're looking at is an additional $3.5 million slated for demolition purposes. Next slide, I will get into some of our strategic priorities for 2027. I'm going to start with new positions that we've put into the TO. The 2 that I'm going to highlight, they are, the first that I'm going to highlight is a program manager for our lead program. The head of our lead program is a program manager 2. The longstanding head of that section retired last year. Part of one of his suggestions in an exit interview that we did with Mr. Carrico was that he suggested that we reinstate a program manager to work under sort of the head. So it's kind of a commissioner, deputy, director, deputy sort of dynamic, just kind of a head person and then sort of somebody to help do day-to-day things and then be available, when that person is away and whatnot. So we've asked for a program manager 1, and that's really something that was reinstated a decade ago. We had this position, somebody serving in this specific role. I wasn't working in the commissioner's office when they decided to do away with that position. I don't necessarily know what the story is. I was a little surprised during the exit interview that they said, hey, we need to put this position back in, because frankly, my thought was, why didn't we talk about that years ago? But we got by. But the new current head of the lead program also suggests that we put that position in, and I certainly support it. The next position I'm going to talk about is a customer service manager. This is a completely newly conceived role in the building division as far as my tenure goes. I don't know that we've ever had anybody serve specifically in this capacity. What we're trying to accomplish by hiring a customer service manager, this is a position that would be in the office of the building commissioner, so kind of at that top administrative level. The goal would actually be that they would be a staff member that would be accountable for folks from the community that are coming in asking questions about the fines and fees associated with code violations and things of that nature. I think it's a fair criticism that I've heard of the building division that folks, you know, they've got questions about processes and why they're hit with certain level of fines, and fines have doubled, and now they're faced with a tax sale. And you know, by the very nature of an inspector's job, they are out in the field, they're actively doing work, they're not sitting at a desk available to make phone calls or take phone calls. They've got specific hours that they, you know, send emails and respond to emails. So the purpose of this role, one piece of that is to just kind of add a greater level of accountability. When somebody walks into City Hall, they should be able to find a human being that will be able to answer questions about fines and fees that they owe the city of St. Louis. The other piece of this position's role will be actually to be the building division representative for all matters related to kind of the tax sale process. Over the last 3 to 5 years, there's been a little bit more of an organized cross-departmental effort to sort of talk about and understand what properties are kind of funneling into a system that ultimately results in them reaching a tax sale, or, you know, being put on a tax sale. And there's just been a lot of, you know, biweekly meetings, I think, or monthly meetings, I'm not sure. There's confirming amounts before they're put, you know, out listed on for the sale. There's just a lot of work that's really just bubbled up. We've been kind of making do by throwing additional work at our accounting team, at our assistants in the commissioner's office. It's not been super sustainable because, you know, we really need one key person or, you know, team of people to sort of do this, and so that people in the community know who to talk to, other departments know who to talk to. There's been a lot over the years of shuffling between the building division, forestry, the collector of revenue, you know, and you know, as somebody who really thinks about the customer service aspect of what we do here in City Hall, I personally don't love, you know, sending people to another office, you know, and we're not able to abandon our posts, so we're sending them without kind of shepherding things. So just trying to have a kind of a better level of accountability so for those processes. And you know, it's growing more and more complicated, so I think it's high time that we have somebody whose sole focus is that. So those are 2 new positions we've requested. Next, I want to talk about, well, we've really touched on it, but you know, obviously another high priority this upcoming fiscal year will just be demolitions and repairs associated with tornado damage. So you see that there's a lot more money put in the budget for those purposes. Building division works with the recovery office to sort of make sure those things go as smoothly as they can, and I think it's hitting a place where hopefully that process should start moving, and we should see more of that. So, you know, we're trying to be prepared for that as well. The next item is the new zoning code. It's not so much impacting our fiscal year budget this year, but right now the planning department and the zoning office inside the building division is working with the consulting team to sort of develop what a new code might look like. And they'll be working on that through, I believe, most of this fiscal year. We haven't made any changes in preparation for what a new zoning code would look like, but this is actually just kind of a 1-year heads up that I do assume that whether we do fully have a new zoning code this time 1 year from today or not, we will be seeing the light at the end of the tunnel of, you know, implementing a new zoning code is my assumption. So more than likely it will affect our FY28 budget, and it is something that our staff is putting a lot of man hours in and thinking a lot about right here and now. So it's definitely a major priority for this upcoming fiscal year. Next slide, thank you. I talked about this a little bit, but after the start of the fiscal year, we'll have money to put towards a contract for a company known as SafeBuilt. It's that third-party plan review services company that I talked about. We've already been through the RFP process. They've already been selected. So after July 1, we'll kind of start entering into kind of a contract and getting that part finalized and implementing them into our workload. So that'll be a major priority and a big win. Another priority will be the rental registry as part of 71835. That, for our purposes in the building division, a lot of that will actually just be a tech integration into the residential occupancy permit application process and inspection process. So a lot of that will be just kind of building in new information and data that we're collecting at the application level and at the inspection level. But that is a goal that we're trying to accomplish this upcoming fiscal year. Another major strategic priority for the next year will be ceasing all operations inside the building division and City Hall's sort of legacy software system known as DataFlex. I don't know if you all work with DataFlex or not. Some departments do, some don't. Up until February, we were processing all of our building permits inside a 1989 black screen with green text hitting a lot of F8, F1 software. And so with the rollout of the building permit application inspection module in our STL City permit system, we've ceased probably 99% of our operations inside that DataFlex software system. There's still a few other integrations that we need to add into STL City permits or elsewhere. So getting off of any dependency of that old antiquated software is going to be a major priority for us. So some of the money associated with software and tech development will go towards new integrations to get things like kind of the more abstract stuff that you don't hear about a lot, like incidental business waivers. It's a waiver that allows businesses to get a business license without having to get a full occupancy permit because they're already operating inside of a building that has an occupancy permit. Just kind of stuff you don't necessarily hear about, not the big sexy stuff like occupancy permits and things like that. So integrations there. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was as of a few weeks ago, the building division's Office of Building Performance, they entered into their second cycle. It's a relatively new office. It's relatively new legislation. I know you all are aware of it. And it works on, I think, 4 or 5 year cycles, and we've moved into cycle 2. So that's kind of a major milestone. It's not directly related with the start of the next cycle, but it is high time that we start using Beam software, which is kind of the gold standard for other municipalities that have similar programs across the country. So, you know, we're just more in line, more in sync with the full ecosystem of this world. And that makes a lot of sense given that, you know, people who have large pieces of real estate, you know, multi-story buildings and things like that, they own buildings across, you know, multiple municipalities, all major cities in the country and whatnot. So it's nice that we'll be using what is great software that will integrate well with the ordinance and regulations that we enforce, but then also kind of consistency for those property owners is definitely a good thing. And with that, those are the major strategic priorities that I was wanting to highlight. I'll bring Acting Commissioner Jeffries back up to close us out, and then we'll move into any questions you all might have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That was pretty well said. I don't have a whole lot extra to add to that. If you want to just go straight to the questions, Q&A, we can do that.
All right, thank you, Acting Commissioner. I start in order of seniority with Alderman Browning. Vice Chair Browning.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffries. I just want to start out by saying I've had several chances to communicate with you on several different issues in the ward, and I always appreciate your responsiveness. I think we can agree that vacant buildings, deteriorating buildings, old, just very old buildings are one of the biggest problems in St. Louis. They exist in every neighborhood, and they pose a significant public safety risk to either people that are occupying them or when they're vacant, just to the community. And so in the interest of just making sure that we're taking care of this issue, especially in the wake of a tornado that hit a significant portion of our older housing stock, and also just a lot of vacant buildings that now have become more advanced problems for the people that live next to them. And I want the best for those communities, and I want to make sure that we're not making people live among that. So I'm glad to see that there is more money, even more money than you asked for, in the Demolition Unsafe Buildings Fund under contractual services. So let's start there. You requested $3 million, but the proposed budget is $5.5 million, which I think speaks to the need. But I'm curious. There is a number of funds that have gone unspent in the past, and I'm wondering what is the holdup when it comes to getting that money out the door and getting those demo contracts? Is it contracting capacity? What tends to be the problem?
Speaking of the demo money specifically that we haven't spent,
Yeah, specifically looking at this, like page 279 of this giant budget we have. Well, I want to start in a logical place, so let me go back to. So what I'll approach this one question at a time. Do we anticipate that additional amount in that contractual and other services, this is 561502, demolition and unsafe buildings, that additional $2.5 million that you're getting beyond what you requested, that's in coordination? I'm guessing this in coordination with the Office of Recovery, and is that for tornado damaged buildings?
I'm going to assume so at this time. The mayor wanted money from the last account that we shifted money, and I was unaware that was going to be here. I'm kind of newer to the budget anyway, but when I saw that, speaking with Mr. Moser and everybody, I'm pretty sure that's where it's all going to end up.
Commissioner, could you kind of like get a little bit more on the mic when you speak?
Sorry.
So I'm just curious because in the past we've seen a struggle with demolishing vacant buildings and elsewhere in the city, but now we have this emergency in North City. And do you think there's going to be additional capacity to continue to deliver demolition of unsafe buildings elsewhere in the city while we handle this emergency?
Yeah, I think it could be business as usual. In the tornado zone, we're doing the condemnations and we're involved in the process, but we're not running the actual demo. So our demolition team, we have a supervisor and an actual demo inspector who kind of creates the packages and the bids and puts it out for bids and everything. And we're not involved with that. So whatever money they get, they'll have to just do whatever because there's different facets of the tornado zone. SB1s, that's a state bill one, and that's kind of hands off for us. So in the other neighborhoods, yeah, we're gonna just keep moving forward with whatever. I wasn't aware that this number was this large to begin with. So we do have a capacity to probably tear down more than we have been doing. Like I said, there's some sticking points at times within private property. LRA, no problem. If it's private, there's a different. If we condemn the building, and with the condemnation, they can appeal everything. And when we go to tear it down, if it's an emergency demolition, nothing they can do. Otherwise, they can get a TRO, temporary restraining order. But as far as the money side of it, if we have the money, we will move forward with whatever. And we get a lot of alderman requests and just CSBs in general from citizens. And Mr. Moser touched upon manpower. That does become an issue at times, just getting enough people to get eyes out there. Because we have so many things we do in the city. We do a lot, whereas in other jurisdictions, they kind of branch it out. They'll have residential, commercial, property maintenance. Our guys have a set area and they do everything within that area. So it's a volume, so manpower, it's always going to be a thing. But yes, we will continue to demo and
And if it's,
outside the tornado zone.
if it's private property, you said there's a little bit of hangout, but unless it's an emergency, what happens in that case? Does that billed to the owner of the property, or is that just a?
Yeah, with the 10% surcharge that will get billed. Believe it or not, when we tear them down, though, we've had requests that people want their building torn down. They want us to. I guess our bid somehow is cheaper than what they're getting, and so we'll do it. But there's the 10% that is a surcharge. We keep that money. That's for time and effort, I guess.
So people that are wanting their building demolished, and you,
It's rare, but it's happened. It's happened.
for whatever reason, if someone wants the city to demolish their building for them, I hope that we can charge them the appropriate amount, and not be the cheapest bidder per se, because like.
No, well,
We have other things.
it goes out to bid, and there's licensed contractors, D&L, list of names, whoever. Usually the lowest, it will be the lowest bid normally, I think, that we pick, but it depends. If everybody's busy and it's not the lowest bid and the other ones can't get to it, then yeah, we'll take what we have to take. And it depends on the condition of the building, and if it's a standalone building in North St. Louis, it's as much as if you got, housing right next door to us.
Yeah, I understand, and that makes sense. It obviously, it's in the interest of public safety, and that's what that priority has to be. Moving on, did I hear that you have 62 vacancies right now, and you said most of that is an inspector 1, 2, or supervisor?
Yeah, yes, sir.
So looking at the staffing numbers, and maybe I'm just not looking in all the right places, but I was seeing that you have, for instance, last year under building inspector 1, you had 14 positions budgeted, 13 of them were occupied. This year requested 14. Our proposed budget is for 14. I'm always hearing that we don't have enough inspectors, that that you're stretched thin.
Well, we're always trying to play catch up. Every time we get 6 names come to us, we'll do 6 interviews. Well, we want to do 6 interviews. Sometimes 4 people show up and only 2 people take the job. So it's a constant process. We're constantly asking for new requisitions to keep filling. And at that time, then some people leave, retire, or go other places.
So you're saying this is kind of a snapshot that might not tell the whole story, that you're constantly dealing with vacancies. What do you think is driving that vacancy?
Probably a various number of things. Salary would be one. Starting salary, we're definitely paid lower than other jurisdictions. I think that job study proved that. Maybe conditions, I don't know. We don't really do an exit survey to see why they're leaving, but we do ask them where they're going. We've had people go to different bigger cities, and we've had people go to Spire, go back to the trades. It just depends. Money seems to be the driving issue to me. That's what I hear
Is
most.
it that we're taking them in and training them, giving them skills that then they can take elsewhere that are much more?
That's absolutely happened.
And are you working with the personnel office to try to make sure we can either offer competitive salaries or other bonuses or other requirements? Because we face this in other things too. We faced it with refuse, right, where we train people and get them a CDL, and then they'd go work for waste management and make twice the amount of money. I'm not.
Most
saying a number
places
different,
want
but-
some kind of construction and or code experience, and you're right. When they come to us, if they're a year in and somebody says, "Hey, come out here and we'll give you 10,000 more," then that's they've already broke the ice with us. So
And so, are you working with personnel to look at those salaries and figure out how we can retain more? Because it seems so wasteful to be training people and then facing the deficit of people.
Yeah, we're not currently holding, regular communication with them. I mean, Director Light is new, and it seems that new things are happening. But no, we're not currently talking about what you're discussing, which is we bring people in for a handful of years, we give them a lot of education, pay for it, and then they wind up within 5 years going off to, a municipality in St. Louis County or somewhere else. And we would love to have that conversation. And I think that there's a chance for that to happen because I hear a lot of great things about the new personnel director.
Yeah, I've had one meeting with him so far, and I think he's, you know, definitely willing to tackle some of these challenges. So I'd love to see that. If we have you in front of us next year, I'd like to hear the progress on that, because this is affecting our ability to make our city safe, right? I mean, I consider building division to be an integral part of public safety in our city. Vacant buildings, especially, they become problems in many more ways, but as far as our city is concerned, what they're doing is they're not really paying us taxes, but they're costing us a ton in city service. So it's just not something our city can afford to go unaddressed.
I would say anything that you, Alderman, can do to help us sort of make those discussions happen, we're here for it. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And you know, I've been supportive of you in the past. I've tried to get you more money in fines and
Oh, yeah.
fees, and trying to just direct it, but like, without the inspectors to go out and do that work, the fines and fees aren't as effective as they could be. And so I want to make sure we're doing that.
Yeah, and I would say with the customer service manager position that we highlighted, we are trying to set the table for a new environment where, you know, we can be more effective in either, you know, I don't want to use too colorful of a word, of hammering, you know, these non-responsive, you know, absentee property owners or whatever, but, you know, we are trying to set a table where we can be more accountable and sort of have more coordinated approach. But yeah, absolutely. And I will say thank you for all the discussions we've had in the past, and all your support in the past, and really to all of you.
Yeah, I think we're moving in the right direction as a city, but sometimes I worry that the building division is being left behind in the discussions, and so I want to make sure that we're bringing you up and modernizing this department, as well as we get a new zoning code and we get you know, all these new services. Speaking of which, I'm curious. You mentioned short-term rentals are on pause, but and I'm aware that's a court order. Assuming we're able to resume that or figure that out, what's your capacity to enforce that if we're already short in other areas?
First, I want to go back to the demo money.
Could you state your first and last name and position, sir?
I'm sorry, John McLaughlin. I'm with the Building Division Special Projects Unit, the manager of that.
And
Yes,
then
and-
lastly, if you could just kind of talk a little bit more into the mic.
How's this?
It's
That's better.
It's better.
All
Thank
right.
you, John. Yeah.
Usually I can talk without a mic and people can hear me halfway down the hall, so. So you asked about the monies that were in the demo budget that were left over. A lot of times we have to keep monies, we hold monies back because in case we have a large building that would catch fire, that we would have to do an emergency demolition, we have to have those funds available so we can take those buildings down. So we sort of strategically try to keep some funds behind that we can take those type of buildings down. We've had those issues. The one that was downtown near the Stan Musial Veterans Bridge was one that we had to take down right away. We needed the money, and it was very expensive. It was,
That was a warehouse fire.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think almost every one of us has a large building in our ward that is, you know,
I will
vacant,
speak to that, yes.
ready to catch fire, ready to burn down, ready to maybe hurt people, or you know, and I've expressed my own frustrations with the preservation process in this city, because I say that it doesn't preserve anything so much as it says that you can't knock down, and then it just leaves it to nature, and then it just hurts the community. And so I can just think of probably a half dozen buildings in the 9th Ward alone that are just waiting to catch on fire. And I hate that for our fire department, and I hate that for you guys, because then you have to leave a bunch of money unused so that we can knock it down if it ends up in that situation. This just seems a really inefficient system, and I'd love to help you out, figure out how we can make this better. I really think the city ought to be, we have a limited number of buildings, we have a set number of land in this city. I think we ought to be identifying what we want to save and doing what we can to save it, and then knocking down the rest.
Can I speak to that as soon as I answer your question about
Please do.
short-term rentals?
Yeah.
So we do have, the short-term rental ordinance would be under my special projects supervision. We do have the manpower in that unit. We have 2 inspectors right now. We had 3. We have 2 inspectors, and we have a supervisor, and I am the manager of that special projects unit. At the current, since we're on hold with that process right now, we have sort of farmed out those inspectors to do area inspector duties. So once that comes back into play and we get the green light, they will go back to their duties with regards to the regulation of short-term rentals.
Okay, so there will be capacity.
Yes.
Okay. But I also heard that we're contracting out permit review. Is that this build, what is it called again?
Safe build?
Safe build, yes. That's permit review that's being contracted out?
That will be for plan review services. So you see construction documents. We have a staff of, I think, 4. We could have as many as 6. These are licensed architects and engineers or folks who have similar expertise in that area. So they review just standard construction. The need for that contract was long lead times to approving building permit applications just simply from staffing issues. Just had really, from my perspective, we had somebody reach retirement age, somebody who retired around the same time as Frank Oswald, the former building commissioner, and then somebody actually passed away. So we just, for whatever reason, the stars aligned. We were left with only 1 plan reviewer at one point. So that contract, I view that as kind of a tool that will keep mostly in the toolbox. It's not so much related to short-term rental or anything like that. But in the event that we fall on hard times where we're having trouble keeping up with the building permit application flow that we're receiving, we'll have a whole other team that we can throw it to who will know our codes and everything and be able to help our staff. So it's
When was that you were down to 1 permit reviewer?
Gosh, when I was making the presentation, I was really thinking about the transition from about 2023 to 2024. But I don't know. Everything's a blur. I'm trying to remember.
It was actually right around.
If you could speak into the mic, sir.
That was actually right around when former Commissioner Frank Oswald retired, and then former Commissioner Ed Werr came in. That's when we were hustling to try to find planning examiners.
And I believe, and I'm going to try to summarize as best I can off memory here, but I believe there's been efforts at the state level to basically put in measures that say we have to approve permits within a certain amount of time or they'll be automatically approved.
There was a statute right now trying to.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that because it feels like we don't have the capacity to do things that quickly, I could see it going one of 2 ways. Either we just end up denying a bunch of things because we can't review them fast enough, or the time limit runs out and things get approved that maybe shouldn't have been approved. Are you concerned about that at all, that effort? And is there plans to address it if it goes into effect?
Well, it's absolutely a concern. Yes, yeah, it's a big concern. We definitely have to make sure that we have the personnel, if indeed that passes, to deal with that.
Yeah, and not to keep harping on the state again, but this is a trend with the state to give unfunded mandates. In my opinion, if they want us permits and approve them in a certain amount of time, then they should send us some inspectors and pay for them. But this state loves to tell us what they can do or what we have to do and then not fund it. So it feels like we're getting pressured from every certain angle on this. And to me, I don't want to see the building division put in that spot where either we're slowing down progress because we just can't keep up, or we are approving unsafe buildings to be built.
Yeah, the contract that we're talking about with Safe Build is directly to address, that type of scenario. We have, in personnel directors past, petitioned them to increase sort of the minimum salary that we would hire what we call senior plan examiners. These are licensed architects and engineers who would work for the building division to approve or deny construction documents, building permits. We petitioned them to increase sort of the salary for that position. It was denied at the time. Would love to, bring that conversation back up, and consider it again, because, for a architect or engineer, it's really, really hard for the city to be competitive in the marketplace against the private sector as far as the job opportunities that they would have.
I can appreciate that, and I hope that we can get there. As far as the rental registry goes, this is a program that was passed a couple years ago, I think, and Alderwoman Saunier championed that, and I'm sure she'll ask about it too. But where are we in getting that on the books and rolling?
Would you like me?
Well, so right now we're awaiting a decision from the city councilor's office with regards to the judge's order to move forward. And in my,
You're thinking of short-term rental.
oh yeah,
guys
short-term
know
rental.
rental registry.
I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
fine.
rental registry is a different thing. Yeah.
No, from a, nuts and bolts sort of process perspective for us in the building division trying to regulate this thing, it's going to require sort of tech integrations. It's going to require us to gather new information at the application level. So just for example, right now when somebody applies for residential occupancy permit, we don't ask the question, is this property going to be occupied by an owner occupant or a tenant? So just simply adding that question into the process will one of the things that we integrate into that. I believe that there will be some integrations as far as data collected at the inspection level. So right now our timeline is really to address that. We're kind of just in the back end of the building permits going online. And so that is one of the sort of next things that we might kind of push in tandem is the rental registry. But yeah, we're definitely looking forward to it. And it'll add great context for us at the staff level when we're looking at properties that have code violations, just to know whether there's a renter in there or whether that's an owner occupant or what have you.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem we have too, is just all these buildings that are owned by LLCs, and we can't figure out who exactly is behind them, and yet they're some of the most serial offenders when it comes to building condition and how they treat their tenants. And so I get why someone might use an LLC structure to own a property, but we shouldn't have that prevent us from identifying the owner and holding them accountable.
Yeah, and having a point of contact, which is a critical piece of the legislation, will be excellent as well, and requiring them to be, relatively local and able to respond within, I believe, 1 hour is the requirement. So yeah, it's high priority. It's reaching the front burner as we speak.
Okay, all right.
Did you have something else?
Yeah, I wanted, so that also folds into, because you mentioned a couple things early on. You said over and over again, vacant buildings.
Yeah.
Okay. From the building division's perspective, we look at that as a way to solve that is strategic code enforcement. Okay, so we want dedicated resources to address vacant buildings, to address chronic landlords, to address people who own properties that aren't moving forward with development or with our code-related issues. So with regards to that strategic code enforcement, first thing we need to do is we have to make sure that our frontline people are in place. Our inspectors, our frontline inspectors have to be in place. Those are the eyes and ears. Those are the people who are doing most of the work in the community. Now, if we're going to look at it from a strategic code perspective, the idea that we've been bouncing around is to bring in specialized or other inspectors to look at those properties. And I'm going to give you an analogy. So you go to the doctor, you go to your primary care physician, and your doctor gives you an exam, looks you over, gives you, treats you for certain ailments. But when the doctor finds that you have a specific ailment or problem, he then sends you to a specialist. Well, that's what we're trying to do. We want to send those type of vacancy issues, those type of code-related behavioral issues to a specialist, to an inspector who would be in charge of that problem, that property, from start to finish, to an inspector who can then work to bring all that information together with regards to a chronic problematic property owner or landlord. Let's face it, the area inspectors, the building inspector ones, the ones that go into the community, they do a really good job, but they're reactive. They react. They can't be proactive. We're looking at these specialists to be proactive. We're looking at these specialists to take on these type of projects, and then that takes it off the plate of that area inspector and then allows that area inspector to be more proactive. So it's a win-win. Now, in order to do that, we have to have those frontline inspectors in place. And then we need to find the money and find this funding to fund the 3 specialized inspectors. We already have a supervisor that has a background in dealing with problematic landlords and problems. He's in the special projects unit. Alderman Aldridge, he works the parking lots. He just started that. He has been putting a lot of pressure on the parking lot owners with regards to the ordinance that you guys have passed. It's all in the early stages right now, and we're getting a lot of good positive feedback from the owners themselves because they're tired of the renegade parking lots that are just doing what they want without following the ordinance. But we need people like that have the time to go out and start a project from start to finish. So those vacancy problems that you're talking about, those inspectors would be the ones that would be in charge of that.
And those are the people that we're currently struggling to keep hired.
No. The frontline people are the ones we haven't filled yet. Those are the ones we have to fill before we can think about the strategic enforcement aspect of this.
What's being done to fill those?
Well, I'm sorry?
Well, you're saying we really need these frontline, but what's being done to fill those positions?
So we're trying to do some interviews, do some hiring. We have a requisition. Usually they give us 6 names. We need really more than 6 names at one time. Like I've mentioned before, for every 6 people, it seems like we retain 2 people, and we hope they stay. So we're trying to get the hiring process. But what he's speaking to is we want seasoned people that know what they're doing with these problem properties, because it may be vacant and there's no one there that day, but we have a lot of homeless population going in. We have, the drugs and whatever else is going on in these buildings. So we want people that know what they're doing. The district people is the ones we're trying to fill first, but then we'll build that unit, having the money funded, have that unit, have 3 seasoned inspectors. We'll probably have a central corridor, a south and a north, break it up, something like that. But getting the district people in place right now, this Sonier's ward, we had somebody quit. Her last day is Friday. There's only 1 inspector in Ward 7. That's a busy ward. So that guy's he's fairly new. He's probably been here, I don't even think he's been here a year, maybe a year. I don't know. I have to check with him. So that's our problem. You know what I mean? So what he has to do is the residential, occupancies, any other occupancies, he's got to do this stuff to have when you have to go meet with people. So the ES and some of this vacant stuff, it just sits there because he doesn't have time. He's got to build a schedule to figure out where he's going, who he's meeting with. So it comes down to hiring people and keeping people. That's really what it is. Hiring and retention. I'm sure you hear it from everybody else, but we're no different than that. So once we get the district inspectors in place, then we'll pick people out that want to do this, because you want somebody that wants to do that. That's obvious.
And when I met with Director White, I asked him about the hiring timeline, because we hear that St. Louis is notoriously slow at hiring to the point where we make an offer and they already found a job months ago.
We've seen that.
And
Absolutely.
he indicated that we've basically cut the time in half recently, and we're still reducing that time. So we're making a lot of progress there. I come back to just saying that I think that it would behoove the building division to work closely with personnel to fill these positions. I understand that we want experienced people, but the only way we're going to get experienced people is if we get young people in there and get them the experience. Yeah. At this point, warm bodies would be a nice change from vacant positions. But changing lanes here, the lead remediation fund. We have struggled to expend the allocated funds from this account for a number of years now. What are the primary barriers that prevent us from being able to implement that program?
With the lead remediation,
Yeah.
I don't know a ton about it. I know that's one of the jobs we just filled was the manager 2 position, and like I think Dylan mentioned, the manager 1. I think maybe not having that other position that we're now putting back into the field was causing issues. It was breaking it up, and they were slow to get things done. Again, that I can't guarantee, but that might be manpower also, because we did have a lead inspector who's now a building inspector. He moved down, is on the North Broadway campus up at Broadway and Palm Street. So I don't know a lot about it. My guess would be maybe manpower, but maybe a slight mismanagement because we didn't have that extra position that was always there. And then two commissioners ago, he took it out for some reason, and then we're putting it back in. So we just need more efficiency in that.
So like under the lead remediation fund though, for instance, like computer and tech system development, we had $260,000 budgeted in FY26. None of it was expended. At least none has been expended so far. We're not done yet. But we're rebudgeting the same amount this year. And I'm just wondering like, what's the holdup on spending some of these
I
funds?
can't answer that, but I can get you an answer.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Can you answer?
a little
Okay.
bit.
Okay.
You're on 274, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're speaking to the 260,000. Yeah. So we have a contract that stipulates we can spend up to, I think, it's somewhere in the ballpark of 1.3 million. As I've always understood it, we have to have that budgeted year over year. That's how it was explained to me in years past, in order to engage that contract, I suppose. We don't necessarily, that's improving our STL city permit system is ostensibly what it is. That's at least the lion's share of what that would mean. We don't necessarily have the capacity to put that many integrations into the system year over year, just because it takes staff training. It takes sort of, you want to monitor the development of things. That specific line item, I actually, would advocate that we could probably be more strategic with that number, but it was always conveyed to us that we have to have that number in place because we have a contract that says, we can spend up to that much. It was one of the problems that former Commissioner Oswald was actively wrestling with around the time of his retirement, and I sort of made it somewhat of a pet project to sort of figure it out. So one of the first years, I believe it was FY23, that I was involved with the budget, was making sure we had the right amount of numbers to make sure that we were able to engage that contract. So there's that one. It doesn't speak to the whole thing that you're asking about, but
So this money's not going spent, so is it just reverting back at the end of the year and going into our surplus, or?
that's my understanding.
And similarly, on the next page, 275, you can see there's a line that you referenced $1.3 million, major projects, contracts and services. Last year was adopted budget of $1.3 million. None of it was spent. We're rebudgeting the same amount this year. It's worth noting that FY25 also had $1.3 million. So it just doesn't seem like we keep putting $1.3 million in this,
Yeah.
keep not spending it. So what is the holdup?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, it's not the best excuse. We're in a tough position trying to prepare a budget without, that this process started with a commissioner that was starting to retire. So I imagine from his perspective, he probably didn't want to change things too much year over year. We also don't want to rock the boat too much because we're going to have a new boss at some point who will be our strategic leader and whatnot. So some of these numbers might be being carried over. I don't necessarily know the story behind that line item, but that's been part of the philosophy that we've used is to, if it worked last year, we'll carry it over this year. I mean, I would be happy to help coordinate meetings to have a kind of more in-depth conversation about these things and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. Similar note on page 283. We, again, under lead abatement, we had $173,000, $173,420 for 5 lead abatement workers. It doesn't look like we ever filled those positions. Have we made progress in that program, filling those positions, or what has really prevented us from implementing that?
Yeah, couldn't speak to it right now. I mean, it might be worthwhile even asking, you know, what level of staffing do we need for the program? I've never worked directly on things related to the lead program. The one thing I've consistently heard is that we've made great strides in our city to get rid of, you know, unsafe lead conditions inside the housing stock of the city and whatnot. If you think about it that way, theoretically, there could be a point where you would eradicate all of the unsafe lead in all of the buildings because the city isn't growing, you know, geographically or anything like that. So, yeah, I know that's kind of a non-answer, but again, would love to have a forensic conversation, you know, with the actual lead team about what the true.
Okay, and the last thing I'm going to ask about here, because I do want to give my colleagues a chance, and I'm just taking up all the questions. The page 279, the public safety sales tax 2 fund for building demolition. I think you know what I think you've detected the trend here. There's $2.244 million budget in FY26. We've spent $0 of it. Is this a result of not knowing what's been reimbursable via FEMA, or like what is the holdup on spending? I know there's just immense demolition needs in the city right now, and that money's just not moving. Is that due to confusion with federal government stuff, or like what's the issue?
I think that is part of it. The way that I see the interplay between the recovery office and the tornado response and the division is that the recovery office is trying to make the most out of available money, which ostensibly means taking the full slate of demolitions that need to occur and figuring out how to spend federal and state level money first before we rely on the city money. So, you know, each individual demolition, you know, it's essentially, can we spend out of this bucket? Can we spend out of this bucket? And the city budget being sort of the bucket of last resort, which we know will require a massive amount of money. So, I mean, I think what the Spencer administration and the building division is gearing up to do is be prepared to spend a lot of city funds on demolition.
Okay. So Marcus, the accountant, just advised me that we did spend that money. We gave it to SDLC. SDL recovers. So that
Okay.
was
So it went
allocated.
to the recovery office.
Yeah, and that's why I think when we're looking at the demo money, when I was speaking of it earlier, why it's so high, we're getting a lot more than we're even asking for. That's where a lot of it's being held back to go to. Because I don't know where they're coming up with their money from the state and FEMA and our state SEMA, but we have to have some in our budget just to keep it growing, so.
Gotcha. Okay. And the last question I have is there's a line on that same page for security. It's $750,000. What's that for?
That money is there for those types of properties like the Railway Exchange Building, which has been in the news quite a bit, and we have to have employee security to make sure that that building is secured, and squatters and urban explorers and scrappers don't get inside and cause a catastrophe with a fire in it. So we do.
Are we spending $750 on just that, or is that?
No, it includes not just that, but I mean, as you said, there's a building like that in nearly every ward. That is probably our the first time we've did it, and we know that done right, it works. And if I had the ability to put $10 million into that account, I would, because then I would be addressing all of those buildings with security. Boots on the ground work, and it costs money to do it.
I imagine it does cost a lot, and this is where I come back to talking about how vacant buildings cost us so much money in services. But I'm curious about the comment you just made. When it's done right, it works, because I keep seeing the people are in the Railway Exchange Building. You know, they keep finding people on the roof. They keep seeing people inside of it.
Well,
I know buildings in my ward which are active drug dens, despite being secured. And look, I get it. The board up crew, I argue they should call themselves Sisyphus, right? Because it's like the task they do, they board up a building, the boards get ripped off, and it's the same thing again next week. And I feel for them. I'd rather just tear down some of these buildings that we can't secure, but the railway exchange is one want to tear down. So when you say when we do it right, it works, what are you imagining, and what do you imagine that costs?
Well, I can tell you how why it works. So in a year and a half that I had the supervision of the railway exchange building, we did not have a breach. In 1 year and a half, we had 0 breaches. We transferred our responsibility over to another agency. They hired another security company, and they had breaches. I took it back over yesterday. I can guarantee you that I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that we go back to the old ways of making sure there aren't any breaches. When I say done right, that means making sure that your security company expects what you expect of them, giving them expectations that they can meet, supervising them, making sure that you go down there and check on that building and making sure that they're doing the job they're supposed to be doing. That's what I did, and that's what I started yesterday, and I'm sure you're going to see a more positive outcome in the future there.
Well, thank you, John. I look forward to that, and I really appreciate you all taking the time today.
Alderwoman Sanya.
Thank you, Chairman. I usually start off by giving a lot of gratitude, and hopefully you all know as a building division, I'm really grateful for you, really responsive. We had a shooting in the building. You guys came out at night, but I'm going to be really quick because we got 15 minutes left and 4 people left to still ask questions. I'm just going to get straight to it.
To that, do you guys have a little bit of more time to stay around? And I'm going to talk with corrections to see. I know we have a break in there that was meant, but we may need to expand some time.
Got time.
So that we can, I know the building is very, it's important to a lot of folks up here, so it may eat into the corrections time, but we'll come back there and figure this out, but don't feel too limited, Alder Lady, so thank you.
Thank you. My first question is just really specific to actually some of the questions you just answered about the Inspector 1 positions. Is there currently a list of qualified candidates sitting with the personnel department, or how is your process going for hiring for those roles?
Yeah, there's a list. We just put another requisition in maybe about a week ago, but I haven't seen any names yet. There isn't a hiring list because there's one gentleman from the street department. He's it might be a street inspector, but he wants to come over to us, and he couldn't do a lateral, so we had to tell him to apply just like everybody else. And he called me already. He's on the list. He's waiting, but he hasn't received anything. So we're waiting to get personnel in line to give us the names. And I'm assuming they're going to give us 6 names as usual. I'd like to ask for 12 names, because, like I said, for every 10 or so people, we only retain 3 or 4. So the more names we get to do the interviews, the more we can get on board and get the inspector ones. And also, we have a person from the airport who I think I can do a lateral transfer for him, and I would like to put him in Ward 7, in your ward. He's been around for a little while, but he'd work out fine. So there should be a list. Yes, that's the answer.
For the turnaround times for approving and denying the various permits, which you all do, building permits, electrical plumbing permits, mechanical permits, housing conservation, do you know what is the timeline for getting those reviewed?
It varies. It really does vary. And again, we'll go back to manpower. I think in the trades, which is MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, mechanical seems to struggle the most. They're kind of understaffed, and they do their own plan review. The supervisor does the plan review, MEP, and he's in the streets all the time because they're behind, as a lot of people are. So when he goes out to the street to do mechanical inspections, he's not left behind to do any plan review. So if he gets to it 3 days a week, then that's what happens. But as far as our side of it, building permits, it depends on what it is. It really does vary. Small permits, fences and decks and porches are quick. Bigger projects, bigger time. That's just kind of how it works. Go ahead.
Yeah, a great number of smaller residential level projects are approved in one day. They're approved over the counter. People come into room 425. They sit across the table from a staff member with the building division, and they get a permit on the spot, whether that means they've got perfect plans ready to go. We have some supplemental materials that they use so that they don't have to draw what a footing needs to look like, and they know specifically what a footing needs to look like. So a great number of applications are approved same day, permit issue same day. Related to what you're asking about, with our new integration with the permit online system, we have started collecting data about what the timeline of an approval looks like from application to permit being issued. Because, you know, an architect designs a project, they may have some flaws in it. We give back revisions and say, we can approve you if you do X, Y, and Z. Otherwise, we'll have to deny you, and there could be an appeal process for that. So we've started what we call like a chess timer. If you've seen people play chess, where they make their move and hit the thing, and then the other guy or gal, they have some time to think, and then they make their move and they hit their thing. So the interesting thing that I would hope to be looking at next year is how much time an application takes sitting in the ballpark of the applicant, meaning the applicant needs to make a revision to their proposal design-wise, because that I know from experience that sometimes takes weeks, months, that sort of thing. So we're doing a lot of interesting stuff to collect data on that. More to come on that one. One of the other big things that causes a permit to take a long time to be issued is our zoning code. And as we talked about, we're working on developing a new zoning code. So one of the chief goals of that process is just to reduce the amount of zoning variances required across the city, because it is a god-awful, a lot of projects have to be approved through zoning variance. And that process takes a minimum of 6 weeks. When you're down on staff, it's going to take more than that. If there is a contention in the project and it winds up taking multiple hearings and whatnot because things have to be continued, or there's negotiations that occur, it takes even longer. So we got long lead times right now for variances, and we're hoping to just do away with a lot of the variances even needing to be required, because we'll have a zoning code that is from 2027 as opposed to a zoning code that's from 1957 or whatever, 47, whatever year zoning was initially implemented into the city, and then all these little Band-Aids through legislation have been put on it.
And that is a great segue to my next question, which is just in regards to the conditional use hearings and our zoning variance hearings, about how long does it take for someone to get those right now?
Yeah, right now, I worked in the zoning office for about 7-8 years or so. That's where I started with the city. Rule of thumb is that it is a conditional use is 4 to 6 weeks. A variance is 6 to 8 weeks. That's what we would tell developers when they just cold called us to just kind of get a sense of things. My guess is it's probably about 30% more than that, because I do know the lead times. I'm sorry, I didn't ask the zoning team. Like, I could normally just say, hey, if I applied for a variance right here, right now, what date would I get? And that could tell us the answer. My guess is that if I applied for a variance right now, I'd probably get a hearing in July, would be my guess. But that is a guess. I'll just throw that out there, but just to give you a sense of things.
In regards to the rental registry, it was lovely working on that together. Appreciated getting to pass that legislation. You said that you needed to work on incorporating some questions into some of our processes and some technology. Is that technology that you need to do that in this budget that is in front of us, or do you have a timeline of when those questions will be incorporated into our processes?
Yeah, money is in the budget for those integrations. We've already met with our contractor and plotted out what that would look like. So when we do those types of integrations, we literally hand over the legislation. We get their take on sort of what would putting this enforcement into our workflow look like. They've developed some preliminary materials on what it would look like. So the goal will be, I don't have an exact time frame now, but the goal will be that soon we actually sit down, have the initial meeting of, this is what it looks like, and we develop sort of the actual particulars of that, and then we would execute the transaction for that implementation to occur, and then they would begin developing it.
But you don't anticipate a situation where you anticipate that you'll have all the money you need, the financial resources for whatever technology you might need. You anticipate that this budget has that?
Absolutely. More than enough, yeah.
And you can't give an exact timeline, but do you think that it's in the next 6 months you'll be able to, these questions will be a part of our processes? Is that definitely before you're in front of us for next year budget again, we'll.
It's a goal for FY '27. I'll say that. I apologize that we don't have like a day one start time here and now, but yeah, it is one of our next highest priorities. I know it's a major priority for you, and I believe, doesn't the ordinance say that the building division is obligated to have that implemented within a certain time frame? And I know that's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it does, but I mean, I want to be honest. We know that there was a tornado, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not at all expecting that the timeline that we discussed when we were working on legislation and putting those things in place, I was clear that there were some other needs that need to be in place. And even as the champion of that legislation, we intentionally paused because you guys had a lot more of a workload for the tornado. So I'm not necessarily upset about any original timelines. We can't predict natural disasters, but I do want to make sure that we get back to it, because I do think a lot of the issues we're having ongoing, that if we could get that going, addressed, and I think it would even be helpful in the tornado impacted areas, because a lot of the issues, as you know, as the building division that we're running into is just the parcels, and that they're not all owner occupied. Some of them we're not even sure exactly who the owner, So I just wanted to raise that as something.
It would have been fantastic to have the rental registry stood up, as soon as the legislation was passed, and have it in place when the tornado came through. That would have been excellent information for us to provide better services to people in the darkest moments of their lives.
My next question is just definitely around like vacancy. Have you had a chance, or has the building division had a chance to read through the vacancy collaborative report that came out?
When did that report come out? I believe I did thumb through that. It's been a little bit, right?
Yeah, actually, this time last year, I think I was sitting in a room on this exact date, and they were kind of revealing their findings, and probably published it a few months after that. So if it was in May, maybe by August, it was published.
Yeah, I think that was. I do think I personally looked through that. I couldn't take a pop quiz on it right now, but yeah, I do recall that.
One of the things that they talk about a lot in the report, and that I know even my colleagues, they did a series of bills around Prop V to kind of update some of our vacancy processes, but in alignment with what Mr. McLaughlin mentioned, and I know I've had conversations with you all about kind of this strategic code enforcement component of it. Not you all needing reminders, but we have 24,000 vacant properties in our city, just about. That's in that vacancy collaborative report. It says that probably about 3,500 individuals are impacted daily by some sort of issue related to vacancy. And it also estimates that we spend and end up spending about $21 million annually as a city addressing vacancy problems. And so a lot of the times that cost is because of things we are not doing on the front end. So then we end up having to be reactive and do things on the back end. I've been able to contact you all, and you've been very helpful on the back end, but the goal with strategic enforcement is that you would have a set of inspectors, whereas right now, like the one that I have in my ward, he's responsible for the entire code. Anything that is wrong, every single issue. I try to be very cautious of like what I'm putting on the page, but the idea with strategic code enforcement is that there are inspectors that are specifically focused on vacant, nuisance, and problem property parcels. So they will not be responsible for the entire code. They are sorely focused on that. And there are many instances that I've seen as an alder or, just in several capacities where if we would have had those inspectors that could be constantly giving citations, that could be constantly doing the work to uplift that, even to a judicial process, I think it would be a huge benefit to our city. I don't see that in the budget today. I do see that it is, I see the ask for just inspectors in general, level 1, but nothing specifically for strategic code enforcement. So my question around that is, do you feel like it would be beneficial to perhaps have some inspectors who are specifically enforcing things around nuisance and problem properties and vacant properties?
100%. I'm all for that. Yes, I think that it's sorely needed. I think we put Band-Aids on big problems, and all it is a reaction. We need something that we can use, that we can move forward with code enforcement and then partner with development. That is what keeps buildings moving. Development as well. We can work on our code enforcement portion of it, and we can, if we have those three dedicated inspectors to deal specifically with that, that also gives your area inspectors the ability to be proactive in your communities. So it's twofold.
So I want to say also, I agree with John. Yes, we definitely want dedicated inspectors for that. Not only will they address vacancy and the nuisance properties, it'll lighten the load from the district people who are out there. So collectively, you know, as a building division, hopefully we get everything caught up. But I will say right now, we've had it for a while, a long time. We do have a vacant building registry. It's a list of just vacant buildings. And, you know, there's an ordinance out there, as soon as it's vacant for 6 months, it can be added to the list. It has to be residential. It can be residential or attached to commercial, but you have to have some residential units in it. And that, they come up every 6 months. So every 6 months, it comes up for another fee letter. We send the fee, you know, we do our thing. So that is up and going. And the IT built it into our system to where if you're out there and you're doing what we call an ES letter, which is existing structure, we don't have to do 2 letters to speed up the process. We can just link it to a vacant building, and it'll pump out a vacant building letter at the same time. We're kind of getting a 2-for-1 there. So, but we do have a list of those, and so that's really already up and going. So that's what if we get that unit going with the 3 people, that'll be the crux of what they're doing, along with nuisance properties, and they'll see those to the end of, you know, till they're demolished or whatever, you know. So.
And we'll be able to then partner with those groups like the Peter Hoffmans of the world and help us move that forward. So it's not just citing it, it's also looking at the development part of it as
Right.
well. That's how you solve it.
Yeah, and the goal of the strategic code enforcement is they would be in charge of just following up matters.
Right.
'Cause,
Well,
yeah,
we don't want to take properties and then let them sit,
right,
because we're not gonna solve anything like that.
right.
We gotta work together to try to come up with some type of development on it.
Understood. And Mr. McLaughlin or Mr. Jeffries, do you, if we were to, I'm very interested in these, you know, maybe a few positions to specifically focus on strategic code enforcement within your division. I definitely want to ask you though, how do you think that would impact the other inspectors that you have on staff?
Oh, well, yeah, like I mentioned there, it's a big part of what we do, and it depends on the neighborhood. It's going to vary from ward to ward, you know, but the wards that are impacted with a lot of vacancy, then it'll free up those other inspectors to, you know, do everything that is they do on a regular, you know, basis day to day. So the day-to-day operations will be more efficient too, with taking some of that off their plate. Because like I mentioned, a lot of other communities and even other cities throughout the, you know, United States, we do everything. That one inspector you have in your ward,
Yes.
he does everything: commercial, residential, demolitions, vacants, all of it. So it's a lot, but that's how we roll with it.
So part of the duties of the area inspector is to be in the area, to look at what's going on in the area. So if we take these responsibilities that we're talking about off of their plate, again, we talked about being more proactive, making sure that they're riding their area and seeing things, putting eyes on things, that's important. Documenting things, that's important. Those are things that one inspector in your ward, I'm sorry,
Right.
it's not going to be
Human
successful.
capacity.
Right, it's impossible.
This is my last question. It is just about, I don't see anywhere in a budget or in a presentation, anything in reference to mold. And I know that mold is something that comes up quite a bit in our city. So my last question is really, is mold something that the building division is having conversations with the health department about? Because it is a very serious issue in the city.
Yeah, there is a mold ordinance, and they did give us the enforcement part of it. The health department's involved in it. We really can't cite for actual mold because the ordinance states you have to prove it's mold. We don't test, you know, that would have to be sent to some lab to be tested, but we can cite for the source of the mold, water and things. And we do have a mold violation that we just loaded into the STL city permit system. So we can cite for it, but we can't prove, you know, that the mold is a tricky one. It's always been kind of.
You saying because it's hard to, you guys need some specific equipment or some sort of tool to verify if it's mold?
Well, that's a whole nother ballgame. That's really, that's a specific training with equipment, and you have to be certified to do all that.
Would that usually be a health department function?
To me, I thought it was in the health department, but they're giving it to us. They're giving us the enforcement of that particular ordinance is what they're doing, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Thank you, and thank you, Acting Commissioner Jeffries and Mr. Mosier and everybody else from the building division here. I'm going to try and keep it short. I know that you all have a lot of work to do, and I'm grateful for the work that you do. I know that I've called for some sort of emergency building inspections, and you all have been out there very quickly, so I definitely appreciate that. My questions are really, I think, pertaining to vacancy, and we've had some of these conversations, as you know, Prop V passed, and then myself, Alderman Browning, and Alderman Boyd and I filed, and the board pretty much unanimously passed a slate of bills related to vacancy, and part of that into increasing the fines and fees for various violations and also illegal demos. And in that bill, we had some positions specifically for that. One was, I think, a building inspector 2 in your division, and then one is an attorney in the city councilor's office. And I know that when I've spoken, the office manager is part of it. And back to Mr. McLaughlin's comments, I mean, I'm just going to be honest here. It seems like we can legislate all we want, but if we can't implement it, it doesn't, you know, we're stuck, right? And I feel like we're in this gap. So, you know, with the fees specifically, I think as Alderman Sanye mentioned, they've estimated there's something like $20 million in unpaid fines and fees. So certainly if we focused on getting some of this, there's a return on our efforts and probably more to help build capacity. But wanted to talk specifically about how those positions are getting filled and how they're getting prioritized. And again, back to the strategic code enforcement and just, you know, we need the people on the ground to make sure that we're following the new laws that we set. But that also, some of this does bring a monetary return to us, which would make it easier for us to pay for some of these things. So that's what I'd like to hear from you all about.
Okay, are you speaking to how we're going to fill the positions? I mean, I have to look into that. That's in the budget for this year, you're telling me?
It should have been. It wasn't filled last year. The law, we pushed it out to start the start date in September. And obviously this was before the tornado, but for those positions to get set, and I know you're not the city councilor's office. It's my understanding that position hasn't been filled in the city councilor's office, right? So the whole part of really having a dedicated team to look at picking up those fines and fees and enforcing them and getting them back, which would actually, you know, I don't know if we're going to get all $20 million, but surely a few hundred, some money back that would pay for those positions would seem to, you know, help with this capacity issue. So yes, my question specifically is about the building, that position and how that's working with the legal component. I know that the office manager was something that wasn't part of that set of ordinances, but it sounds like it's actually key to making it work. And I feel like we're all kind of talking about the same thing. It's that we need more people. We can't keep the people. We're not paying them enough. And if we don't do that, we're not able to enforce. And also we're not able to collect those fees, which cut down on our revenue, which limits our ability to hire more people and or raise their salaries.
Yeah, I think you touched on this. Yeah, the customer service manager position would be a key part of that process to be able to help manage all of these additional fines and fees being issued, as well as the response from the property owners that finally, in many cases, finally come out of the woodworks whenever they finally get hit with a big enough bill for neglect on their property. I don't think any of the three of us can completely speak to why those new fines and fees haven't been implemented yet. I know since Commissioner Ware has retired, I've spoken with the mayor's office about kind of coming up with a plan to implement that process. So we do have an eye towards that. So I've had a conversation specifically with someone you all know, Caitlin Smith, who formerly worked under Alderman Browning, about it. So right now, I think the plan is to sort of come up with a real strategy, because it is going to be a big change of things. I know you want to, maybe try to slow roll it and even maybe find a couple properties, kind of see how it plays out. And I totally agree with that position. So it's going to be a priority of ours, and we hope that it's a priority of the next building commissioner. But yeah, we do plan to implement those fines and fees.
So Alderwoman, I want to agree with you. Strategic code enforcement is a very, very important tool that we have underutilized, and we need to follow that path more. I think that what we talked about today is a good plan. I think that we have processes in place that would dovetail into that right away. We would see an immediate action if we started doing those things, if we had the personnel to do it. And I think that's what we're headed in that direction. So we could do a lot better job with regards to strategic code enforcement. I think that our internal talking with you guys, I think that we are on the right track. We have the laws in place. It's not going to be something we have to wait on other than personnel, and it would be very successful.
Thank you, Mr. Sergeant McLaughlin, and I appreciate all the work that you do too. I didn't mention your name at the beginning, and I'm happy to not slow roll it. I've got a list of properties that I could give you in my ward. I think that the city's been slow rolled for a while, and those residents who live on those blocks where there is vacancy and they have those derelict absentee landlords are ready to move on things as fast as they can. And I would just say I think what you're hearing, but from my perspective, the building division is critical in almost everything that we do. I mean, for all of us on the alderman side, and certainly for the residents. And so, I think to Alderwoman Sanye's point, ways that we can figure out how to support you with the budget and with person power is important, because again, we can create new ordinances, but it doesn't really matter unless we can get them enforced. And so just trying to think about ways that we can get some of that money back. And I know that, again, back to the vacancy issue, I mean, they were able in an ad hoc way to collect $200,000 of that 20-something million dollars. So, thinking about, there is a way to kind of help us pay for it, if we do it, but that requires commitment and strategy, and also, juggling all the pieces that you all are. So that's all I'm going to ask today. I appreciate all your time and work and all the responsiveness to my calls and to my residents' concerns. So thank you.
Alderman Devotie.
Yes, thank you all. It's been an enlightening morning, and I appreciate your the information that you've provided to us. At this point, I'm just going to ask a handful of follow-up questions. Okay. Both of which, or at least the first couple, start with how. We've talked about personnel issues, both with respect to frontline inspectors as well as the 3 specialists. I think the information you provided was fascinating. I guess my question would be how? How do we get those people in place? And then once we have them in place, how do we keep them in the employment of the building division? How?
That's a good question. It's not an easy answer, but I will say that the simple just putting it out to the public is how you get people to want to apply. That's something. I don't know if we have to do social media somehow. It's on the website, so you can go in there actually and look and pursue the job. But maybe we could look at other things, a way of putting something out there. Again, I'll circle back and say money, because the people that have left, like I said, we don't do necessarily an exit, survey on them, but that's why they're leaving. And work conditions, some of them, we lost 2 inspectors back to back to Webster Groves for some reason, and I've talked to one of them, and basically they have one job. They do building permits, and they don't do all the other things like we're talking about, vacancy. They have one job, and they make more than they made here. So it just seemed to be a better deal all around. But as far as the raising the flag of here we need people, that's just, I don't have an answer. Great answer for that one.
And I understand that, and I guess that's what I'm getting to. Is it strictly a financial component? Is it an organizational component? Is it the way your particular office is organized? And I know, and you've said it a couple times, we don't do exit interviews, a formal interview, and I
Right,
understand that.
Not formally.
But certainly, I mean, we know when somebody leaves, typically there's a conversation.
We know why. Yeah, we usually know why.
I was going to say, right? I mean, you know why. There's the grumbling, there's the statements. We don't need necessarily a formal interview many, many times. Does it come down to money, compensation?
Short answer, yes.
Okay. One of the dirty words or phrases that I have learned since taking this position is salary savings. I just, the idea being that we, as a city, no matter what the department is, we budget for a given number of positions, but we know we're not ever going to spend those funds because we aren't employing people in all of those spots. It amounts to a savings in salary. And during your presentation, I kept thinking about that and kept thinking about it, just is churning in my brain. If at end of day, our building division is losing folks to Webster Groves because of money, has there been discussions with Light or his predecessor about something as simple as potentially eliminating positions that we haven't filled in many, many years and taking that allocation of salary and putting it toward the inspector 1, 2, manager, the creation of this specialist position so that we're appropriately compensating people so that if anything, somebody's going from Webster Groves to the city?
So, I mean, it sounds like a good thought. I wouldn't know how to go about achieving that within the building division. Are you talking about within the building division?
Sure.
City in total?
I'm talking about within the building division.
Yeah, we would probably have to sit down, look at the TO and see where the spots are with what you're talking about, and there'd be a process to have to go about doing that.
Excuse me, Alderman. I'm sorry, I was at another meeting. But yes,
Director, could you state your first and last
I'm
name?
sorry. I'm a Director of Public Safety, Sean Dace. And yes, to answer your question, we have had some top-level conversations with Director Light for not only the building division, but SEMA too. We're in the process of restructuring. Buildings division has had, I mean, with the exit of Commissioner Ware, has put us in a bit of a tailspin with the audit and everything. But to answer your question, which would really help our cause in regards to retaining employees, because we ain't just losing Webster Groves. I mentioned this in my presentation. We're in competition with every municipality, north, south, east, and west. So
Sure.
Yeah, your point is well taken, and we are in the process of doing just that.
I appreciate that, Director, and thanks for coming up. It just seems to me, and I know we need more inspectors, and that's kind of what we're talking about here. That's the context of our conversation. But if we are consistently, and maybe I'm making this too simplistic, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're not. You're really not.
But if we are consistently not filling those positions, why not simply eliminate them and take that salary and apportion it to the positions that we do have so that when we get a good person, we hold on to them and they thrive and they prosper. And I know that's a very simplistic statement. It's easy for me to say from my chair. But I know it's been done in other situations. I mean, I can think this past year we did it with respect to the city councilor. Eliminated 2 positions, and those salaries were allocated to hire folks so we didn't lose high-end, good, solid lawyers. Anyway, I appreciate the comment.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think I mentioned this in my presentation on Tuesday. We're trying to build synergy, enthusiasm. We've been able to do that in the corrections. So those positions, we're going to do a better job of being more aggressive in trying to locate people that want to be a part of the city and want to be a part of buildings. Right now, the stigma is not very positive, but those are things we're expecting to change. And again, we get a commissioner in there to help us strategically get everything going in a positive manner. But we are focusing on trying to fill those positions and do a better job of that.
I appreciate that. And you spoke about those challenges on Tuesday morning or afternoon. Heard from you. So message received loud and clear. And maybe the second part of my comment or question was really aimed at maintaining, keeping those folks in place. I realize that it's very difficult to hire 6 people at a time, or I would imagine it would be very difficult to bring on 6 quality folks at a time. But even if we're chipping away at that, once we get those folks in hand, man, it'd be nice to hold on to them and keep them in our building division.
Yeah, and that starts with changing attitude, environment there. Hoping to do.
You all have been very generous with your time today. The one question or the one other subject that I wanted to follow up with, and maybe Commissioner, if I could ask you, there were some questions very, very early on by Alderman Browning with respect to data collection and computer. And I think you made mention, or maybe it was Mr. Moser made mention that with regard to software or maybe hardware programs, there was a certain amount budgeted, but then with respect to the actual proposal, I think it was about 600,000 or maybe 650 light, as I'm looking at it. And anyway, we've talked a little bit over the last hour and a half about technology and the use of new software programs. How confident or how concerned are you about meeting those software or those technology concerns with the difference in what request was and what the budget proposal is with respect to computers, tech systems, and software?
Is your question, do we feel we have enough money to be able to integrate everything that we intend to integrate over the next fiscal year? Is that the question? Or is it around that we've budgeted a large number that has gone not fully spent year over year?
No, because it looks like with respect to fiscal year 25, for instance, spent about $646,000. I know.
What page are you on by chance?
What's that?
What page are you on, sir?
I'm on 271. Okay,
thank you. Go on.
This would be under contractual and other services. The line is 560003. I assume that there was a reason for requesting $1.5 million with respect to tech system development computers. But maybe your question is better than mine, which is, are you concerned about meeting what you had in mind if the budget allocated is $600,000 less?
I mean, I'll say that everything that we intend to do in terms of tech development, I feel fully confident that we'll have enough money to do those integrations.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's from either a hardware or a development side or software?
I mean, 003, the line item you're specifically referring to,
yes,
to my understanding, that is just for software development. So actual hardware would come out elsewhere. But I also feel confident that we'll have all the computers and all the things that we need in terms of hardware as well.
Okay. Fair enough. I just want to make sure we're crystal clear, because I've heard a lot of responses today with respect to other alders' questions that talks about the use of technology, the use of computers, the planning moving forward. But if you're good, that's very good to hear. Okay, fair enough. Again, I appreciate your patience. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman, and thank you to the Building Commission and your team for being here. Clearly, this is you know, when we talk about public safety, I know you guys are in the public safety budget. A lot of times when we talk about public safety, policing is the first go-to, but buildings is such a huge component to public safety. As many as my colleagues have said today, when you're talking about the massive amount of vacancies that we have in the vacant buildings, and at some point the city of St. Louis, with the massive amount of LRA vacancies that we have, we also need to hold ourselves accountable, not just the outside individuals, because we are a large stockhold of some of these vacant buildings that are catching fire and falling down, which is not in your department, but it's critical to start to, you know, address these. And in a lot of communities like mine, you know, these vacant objects that they see for decades, or, you know, as I drive down certain areas in the 14th, continue to see those vacant buildings become a kind of mental negativity on people's mind frame of neglect, disinvestment, and feel like things aren't going to change. And that mind frame and that energy sometimes circulate into, you know, negative thoughts and negative actions that then potentially may need policing, all right, or need to have stuff like Office of Violence Prevention to do the proactive things. But your department is so critical to, you know, I don't think we really uplift how, you know, eliminating one or two vacant buildings can go a long way of a psyche of individuals that have been living next to these vacant Paul McKee properties, let's just say, for 10, 15 years. You know, it's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing for some people to live and see it. So ultimately, I want to thank you all for the work that you do in trying to address public safety from the building division aspect. However, with that being said, you know, you start with the flowers and then you dive straight into, like, how do we, I think from this budget committee, a lot of questions I was asked really is, how can we support, you know, just either from an alder, from a budgetary standpoint. And hopefully I had some things that I want to ask, and hopefully I don't have them out of thought because there's been so much good conversation. I just want to get some questions on some vacant positions and what they are. So customer service manager, I see you all asked for this year and was a new position. That's the one that you're talking about will be front facing. Can you go a little bit more detail? Because I know that you already have like customers, or continuing on that, you're looking to get a customer service supervisor. And then it looks like another customer service, just one, a customer service supervisor. You already have customer service representative. You already have customer service representatives number 2 and 1. So there are people in the office that, and I tend to go up quite often. I appreciate you, Mr. Dillon, and former Commissioner Ed Ware, and as well as Frank Oswald, and Mr., I don't know why it's blanking me, McLaughlin, as we worked on the public nuisance bill, and just the great work that you all do up there. But there's already some front-facing customer service individuals in the building division, correct?
Yes, correct.
And this new customer service manager would be somebody who can take that to the next level, or?
Yeah, the vision is that this person would be able to answer questions related to active fines and fees that people are already, they're faced with. They are expected to pay the building division. The hope would be that this individual would be able to explain what happens if they don't pay those fines and fees, which would ultimately result in the property landing on a tax sale. And so it's, in my mind, it's sort of two parts. A level of accountability in-house for somebody to be able to speak to fines and fees associated with a code violation, because the inspector, it's a bit to ask the district inspector, whose mind is totally, focused on the violation itself and what it would mean to remediate the violation. But what does it mean to have this level of debt because of the code violation? So we want that person to be able to speak to that, and them to be, available during regular business hours to do that, as opposed to that question being posed to a district inspector or that inspector's supervisor when those folks are actually out in the ward, boots on the ground doing day-to-day inspections and everything. The other part of that position would be that there's been a lot more work as part of kind of this cross-departmental process for how tax sales work. So there are, I can't remember right now if they're biweekly or if they're monthly, but there are monthly meetings where everybody comes together to talk about things. So everybody knows who all the players are. Every time there's a tax sale, and I believe it's 6 times a year, there are fines and fees that have to be confirmed to make sure that the number that this property is going to go up for auction, make sure that that's an accurate number, and there's lots of quagmires that will come out of that. I can think of one instance where someone was disputing a code violation. It was poor timing on whether, to dispute whether the code violation existed or not, but, you've got less than a week, we'll say, before a tax sale, and then, we're talking about whether or not the violation even existed or whether it was a grandfathered, feature from a historic home or something like that. So it's just become very complicated, and right now we have about 3 or 4 different working various aspects of it. So that's what the customer service manager would be doing. That's the vision. A CSR1, those are the folks that just process building permits. They're taking paperwork, they're taking directing people to the cashier window to pay for their permit or their application or whatever. I think I'm not sure if I've answered your question directly or what, but.
No, I think you did, and I'll say, there's a saying like a closed mouth don't get fed. So it's glad that you all are asking for this new position that is new to see how it will work to upgrade it, I guess, or to elevate the office. I guess one of the questions that I was going to have is, and like I said, you got to start somewhere, is one position for one person that will be taking phone calls from Ward 1 all the way to Ward 14 on different fines and fees enough, or what are we going to be creating the same cycle of putting so much on one person that they run ragged and then they get burned out? Like, was there a thought to try to go to 2, or?
It may be something, if after we implement the position and see how it works, that'll be really enlightening, similar to the way that I spoke about buying a bunch of hardware because we got a new building permit online system. We didn't want to buy a bunch of stuff to find out that we didn't need all of it. So, I will say that we did ask for an administrative assistant 1 position. That was part of our request. It didn't pass into the proposal that's before you today. That's on page 282. We currently have 2 administrative assistant 1s, and we were asking for a 3rd, and the 3rd would actually work alongside the customer service manager. We would have loved to have had that. We still would love to have that. But yeah, right now we're dealing with nobody whose sole job it is to do this one specific thing. So 1 is better than 0. And
Gotcha.
And maybe, if we find that we're collecting more money because of it, it'll be an easy sell to say we need 2 customers, in FY28 or something like that.
Gotcha. And 3 other quick questions, and then, even though we took a lot of your time and we pushed back corrections, I do want to thank corrections for being flexible. We probably can sneak in a little break. I see the legendary individual also over there in the corner. Good to see you. I think my colleague said on the building inspector part, it's super critical that, part of it is in the building division, but when, the new personnel director has been amazing, figure out what will it take to keep more building inspectors. I think we covered a little bit of the lead kind of fund that we have. We're basically just putting money in a fund to put it back in our general revenue because we're not doing nothing with it, which go into reserves, which I guess makes sense why all the lead abatement workers are never occupied, even though we put positions for them in the budget. If I'm just looking at 283, lead a worker, 5 positions. It wasn't occupied last year. The next page, which comes from, I guess, grants. 2 positions was not occupied for another lead abatement worker. So basically, I think the alderman from the 9th answered that, and still maybe some questions from the department of that fund's clearly not being utilized, and you guys aren't doing anything with that money or those positions, correct? Yes. Or who's the person who needs to get the clarification on that program?
So we just hired a new head of our lead program. It's somebody, great guy. His name's Frank Borzig. He's worked in the program, so it's what you'd really love to see, somebody rise through the ranks over the course of about 5 to 7 years or whatever it's been for him. So he is now the head of that program. I mean, I would love to broker a conversation amongst any of you all, along with, Mr. Borzig. Possibly it's something that maybe even happens after we get a new commissioner, but happy to do it, prior to that. And maybe just check the health of what does that section of the building division actually need? Are we year over year asking for positions that maybe we don't necessarily need anymore?
Because I think of public safety, again, if we know that those 5 positions are in there, and I mean, maybe we strategically do that. 5 positions, only 173,000. I'm horrible at math, but if you take those 5 and divide it, I don't know who would take those positions. I would assume probably maybe 2 for 173,000, but 5 scheduled in the 173. I mean, clearly those placeholders are there knowing that they're never going to be used. But look, every cent and penny counts, and if we know we're not going to use those, I could just think of public safety as we had OVP in there. Why aren't we allocating that money to, Office of Violence Prevention instead of just putting it in the budget to put it back in the budget to never use that money? 2 other questions, and I'll be done. Surface parking lot. I know John covered this a little bit. Maybe he can speak with me on it. Before Mr. Ed Ware went out, I wanted to just kind of get an update on the surface parking lot. I think you covered it a little bit. There was a 1-year effective date. One thing about Ed, that those shoes are going to be billed for whoever the next commissioner is. I didn't even have to pull up the ordinance for him to already just start going through and was like, oh, I remember this and this and this, and this is a requirement. I was like, Jesus. And I had it in my hand and I had to review it, and I'm the one who wrote it. But he was saying that they're going to start like that process. Can you tell me I think you mentioned it, what role or what is the position who will be going out checking these surface parking lots, making sure they do the requirement, and has that process started?
The process has started, and it was delayed because of personnel-related issues. We have the supervisor that's in place that a month ago started regulation of parking lots. And we have one person who's actually in special projects that also does daycares and things like that, who is also going to be assigned to the parking lot enforcement portion of the ordinance.
Gotcha. Well, I will work with you, John, and maybe the building division to just continue to stay up to date on that. I know that's been a concern with some of the downtown residents and organizations, and just in general. I think there was a recent story on the news of some vandalism that has happened, mainly on the street, but it brought back up the surface parking lot. And then my last question, and then we will fit in a break for everybody. I think this question is probably for Director Dates. As we're talking about new commissioner, again, building division is just as critical as any public safety department outside of like policing. How are you guys going about looking to fill this position for the building commissioner?
Well, as I mentioned before, we have a nationwide search out. We're looking for somebody who has good organizational skills, a person that has a track record of managing people. The building division is going to have to take an entire overhaul. So we're going to look for somebody that can come in that has experience in regards to the building division, but somebody who is organizational skills would be a must in filling that position.
And I'm not opposed to necessarily outside search. I think our police chief he wasn't my first pick when they was doing the outside search, but I think Chief Tracy has done a good job, as well as the new streets director has, I think, done a very good job. is there any conversations of outside of doing the national search? I think the building division, while it does need some cleanup and overhaul, even though there's a lot of great men and women that's doing great work, you know, it's very unique. Are you guys looking also in-house, or are you?
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah. I mean, we're not eliminating anybody. Actually, I'm meeting with several people in the next couple weeks to talk about some influencing folks to recruit and help me recruit in regards to filling that position. So yeah, no, we're not. If you know, you're absolutely right. There are some things unique to St. Louis that someone who's been here would have that knowledge about. So that's definitely, those folks would definitely be considered.
Thank you, Director. Any other burning questions from my colleagues?
No.
Seeing none, thank you, Building Commissioner, for being here, extending the time a little bit. We have the Department of Corrections that we pushed back that will be coming at 12. So with that, I'll take a recess into 12.
So moved.
I'll take a motion to recess to 12. Moved by the Alderwoman from the 7th, second by the Alderman from the 9th. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Budget and Public Employees is resuming from our recess. I'll take a motion to come back into session.
So moved.
Moved by Alderman from the 2nd, second by the Alderman from the 9th. All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We will continue our conversation with the budget, and next we have the Department of Corrections. So if the commissioner wants to come up, introduce himself, and anybody they have with him, you can jump straight into your budget. And from our end, it looks like we are muted. Okay, I think we're unmuted, so you're ready whenever you are, Commissioner.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon.
1 second.
Okay.
STO? Okay.
All right. Just in case if people didn't hear us, we're starting back the budget conversation around the budget, and we have the Department of Corrections in front of us. Commissioner, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And Commissioner, just pull the mic up and make sure that you're talking to it so that we can hear you.
Okay. Good. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nate Haywood, Commissioner of CJC. Right. So I made a PowerPoint for you guys to see some of the things that we completed over at CJC since I arrived September 16th. Someone had.
I think it's up on the screen. You ready?
Okay. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about some of the main strategy goals, and I'm not going to read everything. I'm just hit some of the highlights that we completed. Safety and security, that we, made sure that we got training for staff, letting them know about the safety and security of the jail, staff excellent. That's something that we've been promoting. Offender accountability, meeting with residents and getting feedback from them, talking to them on a regular basis. We complete commissioner rounds just to get some input on some of the things that's going on inside the jail with administration. Some of the key service provide that we have is the security operation, housing supervision, that we making sure that everyone's patrolling, doing the tours that they're supposed to be doing, the intake and release, booking and classification. We just started a classification unit. We just hired a supervisor down there in classification. Next, we're going to get about 4 more classification case managers down there to help out. This is going to allow us to classify these residents the proper way that they should be classified, that no one to be mixed up where they're not supposed to be. And then also the contraband control is something that, we've been working hard on. We just brought a scanner for the legal mail that's coming in the jail. We have people that's going to Amazon, buying fake legal mail stamps and sending it in. And so this is going to allow us to scan the legal mail just to make sure no contraband is on the legal mail. They soaking the papers with all type of liquid drugs. So that's some things that we're doing. We're doing more searches up in the jail, trying to prevent people from using contraband. The facility operations, we upgraded a lot of things in the jail. We started the cleaning crew, also a painting crew with the residents. So we completed like all the floors on exterior with the painting, and now we're doing the cells, trying to get majority of the cells painted. Emergency response and reporting, that's something we're trying to make sure that we stay on top of. And safety and operation, on the next page, you'll see that, we just started body-worn cameras, and this is going to have accountabilities for both the staffs and the residents. This is something that is needed in all jails. We just put this in place with the captains about a month ago, and then we're going to start with the lieutenants, and then 30 days later, the officers will be having body cameras also. And this will have everyone with a body camera on, whenever they respond to an incident, supposed to turn on their body camera. The body scanner is something that is needed that we have. This is something to prevent contraband from coming into the jail. So this is something major that we have. And then also we have plans of putting one down in PD section for when residents get arrested by PD, that they can be scanned. The embassy box is something that we put in place on the second floor in a mission area where corrections at. Right now, we still dealing with PD, trying to put one down there also. But right now, we have one on the second floor, and this is where when residents are locked up, they can voluntarily put drugs inside that box. And so far, I've been helping out a great deal. We found heroin, cocaine, weed. They been just putting all type of contraband inside this box. So it's helping out, trying to get people not to bring drugs into the jail. The newsletter is something that we just put in place about 3 months ago. It's an excellent newsletter, being transparent with everyone, letting them know what's going on inside the jail, other than just sending out emails all the time. And I just mentioned about the classification unit. Every jail should have a classification unit, and so that's what we've been working on over at CJC. Staff and leadership, the recruitment, since I arrived, we reduced the shortage. We was like 85 officers short, and we brought it down. We hired at least 50 officers, but at the same time, you have officers that come in and they stay, and then they move on to St. Louis County or St. Charles for better pay. And that's what's been happening with us, and so we continue to hire people as people leave. Just hired a major and a deputy commissioner and a chaplain. The chaplain is over our programs. Reverend Gray, he's doing an excellent job with that. The training coordinator, this is something about the training. When I came over the last time, I talked about revamping training. This training coordinator is doing a great job over there, not only with the new staff that we're getting, but we have a training, online training for current staff that's in the jail. And that was something that I asked staff when I first arrived, when the last time they had some type of training, especially leadership training. and that'll be my next thing I'm talking about. The leadership training is so important. That's where it starts at, from the top. So your leaders need to understand the procedure of the jail, and that's what we's lacking in. And so now that we had outside training coming in, training our leaders, and that's what I want to continue to do, bring in outside resources in, and also having our leaders go to different conference to understand what a leader's supposed to do. And then the recognition committee, some of these things was in Mr. Burris' report before he left. He put in there about the ERC, Employee Recognition Committee. We started this already. This has been going on now for, I believe, 3 months. They put together the Correction Officer Week. That's going on all week this week, and they doing an excellent job dealing with that. We started the Employee of the Month, recognizing employees that's doing an outstanding job, and this is going well also. Resident programs we have going on at the jail is the work crews that I mentioned. You know, they have the paint crew, the scrub crew, the power wash crew, the upkeep of the jail, the tablet access. Now we have all residents have tablets. You know, at one point when I first arrived, I think we probably had about 10 in the unit, and you had about 60 residents in the unit. So you always had altercations with tablets. Out of the cell time, we increased that, letting the residents out. I know when I first arrived, the feedback was from the residents that they was complaining about not coming out their cells to call their loved ones. So that's what we did. We increased coming out, and we did it in sections because of staff shortage. Commissioner rounds is something that we created when I first arrived, that the commissioners go upstairs and go inside the units and be seen by the residents and also the officers. This is something that was real important that we need to do. This is another recommendation in Mr. Burris' report that we, conduct rounds at least 3 times a week. And we try to do 5, but we do 3 a week. Facility upkeep, the lobby floors. When I first arrived, the lobby was kind of dull. Now it has a shine to it. Make sure they scrubbing and mopping and waxing. Looks a whole lot better. Okay. Now we gonna go to the general fund. I requested 40 million, and the proposal was 33,757 and 362. I know if we can't get the 40, I'll be happy with the 36. And I'm gonna break that down in the presentation. I know the budget is tight. I understand that. But the thing is, we trying to make CJC successful. And, when I first arrived, that was my goal. The Correction Phone Commission is $955,000, both sides. And then the jail facility improvements is $900,000. The staffing overview was requested for 254. The proposal is 228 right now. And then also I have a breakdown of the medical services. I think Ms. Frazier said it did go up, Ms. Frazier, to 200,000. So this number might not be right, what I have right now, because we just received this information. The quick stats, 40,699,011, and this includes with salary, building maintenance, and medical and food services. This is the breakdown on that. Okay. The strategies and priorities, some things that that we need at the jail is the accreditation manager and a PREA coordinator. A PREA coordinator is Prison Rape Elimination Act. This is something that's needed in all jails. We don't have a PREA coordinator right now at CJC. Right now, we have our major substitute in this position. This is extra duty for this major. This is something that I would love to have, because whenever you have assault, anything like that, you got to be careful that you don't get any type of lawsuit. Staff development. We want to make sure that our staff is getting trained. You know, we're looking at like sending some of our, especially our leaders, to NIC conferences and AGA conference, increasing off-site leadership training to help them understand, you know, the ins and outs on being a leader. This is some of the things that we promoted when I was at St. Louis County to try to get everyone trained properly. The honor guard, most jails in the United States have honor guards. You know, at St. Louis County, we did have honor guard. Right now, we don't have one at St. Louis City, but I'm looking forward to having something like this at St. Louis City. Like I said, I want to make sure that we make CJC successful, and this is part of the plan of making it successful. Operation safety, you know, we want to make sure that we are doing everything correct, the procedure and compliance, making sure everybody's following the rules and the policy and procedure. The budget, we have key personnel training to build professionalism, accredited for the division. This is something that, you know, I've been sending out emails about professionalism. You know, when you come into a culture that has been, you know, so lax on professionalism, it's a lot of work. And that's what we've been doing, the administration that's on hand right now. Key funding, staff development, what we talked about, retention, recruitment. All this here is some of the things that Mr. Burris had in his report, and so we try to follow that as much as possible. You know, he mentioned about the training, making sure we get retention going, and also recruitment. And so what we've been doing with the recruitment, you know, I've been putting it out on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, just promoting different positions, and that's how we've been doing our recruitment. Reentry programs, we trying to make sure that we giving these residents all the programs that we can, making sure that they don't have to come back to jail. So with the Serve Safe program that we've been doing, this was here before I arrived. I know it was successful at St. Louis County because I was over that program. A lot of residents that got out got jobs at major hotels, major restaurants, became managers and doing successful. So that's a big program that I love to see with residents getting involved. The educational and vocational programs is going well. Reverend Gray is doing an excellent job with all these different programs. The mental health support, the mental health team, they just started a yoga class during the week for the females, and this is an excellent program. When we walk around, the administration walk around, the females always talk about that program that they love to attend. And also, we have the computer class now, and also they get on the computer and look up how to do resumes and different things like that on the computer. So that helps out a great deal also, but when they get out, they could be ahead of the game. Jail assessment. When I first arrived, I did assessment of the jail, and this is before I even looked at Mr. Burris' report. And some of the things that was in line with what he mentioned in my report. When I looked at it later on, like a week later, I noticed that we had some of the same things. The jail need repairs. That's what we've been doing. since I arrived, you know, with the painting and also fixing different things inside the jail. Technology and security, we have a lot of cameras that need to be fixed over there at the jail, and that's one of our priorities, that we want to make sure that we have eyes in the jail when we're not there, you know, so we could know what's going on and making sure that we holding people accountable for things that's going on in the jail. The population, you know, it changed from when I looked at the population last year, I believe it was about 680, you know, before I arrived. Now we at 782, so the numbers went up, but we still at the same pay of salary for this year, you know, that they recommending. So I mean, I just don't understand the numbers. So that's why I want you all to think about it and see what we're talking about once we get completed with this and the questions we could finish up on. So the population numbers went up, food went up, the medical care went up. Okay, so I wrote down 6 core strategies that we would like to attack. Staff development, that's something I talked about, reentry, support, facility maintenance, and security tech and compliance, and the population readiness. These are some of the things that we would like to attack for this next budget. And also, if you look down at the bottom, I put down there about the accreditation. This is the plan. You know, when I read Mr. Burris' report, he mentioned something about the accreditation. You know, St. Louis County was accredited for about 7 years, I believe last year, and no, this year in January. Something like they failed the accreditation, now they're trying to get it back. But this is something that I'm looking forward to for CJC down the road in the future. So this is why I would like to hire a PREA coordinator and also accreditation manager. This will help us in line in getting compliance to all rules for accreditation. And this is why I put down them 2 positions, because you have to have a PREA coordinator and accreditation manager to be in compliance. And then operation excellence, focusing on safety and security and staff leadership. That's so important. That's why I keep talking about leadership. And that's why we meet so much with our leadership team, trying to get them to understand how important it is to be leaders at a jail. And that's the end of the slide.
Thank you, Commissioner. Order of seniority, Vice Chair Browning.
Thank you, Commissioner. First off, I want to extend my congratulations on the hiring of 14 new correctional officers and the promotion of 2 officers, and 1 to captain and 1 to major. I think that adequately staffing the CJC is one of the most important things we need to do to ensure that we're providing care for the detainees there. So I'm aware that past struggles at the CJC have been related to staffing, and that it's just you need people to watch other people and make sure that they're staying safe. And often I think that people's concern for the safety of people comes back to just having those staff members that are there and making sure that the CJC is running correctly. So this is excellent progress that I'm seeing on that front, and I'm see it. Just a couple questions for you. One is, there's a line item in this budget, and just to understand, I'm looking at this budget, and you know, same as you, I see these lines, and I'm just don't know what certain things mean. So I'm looking at page 294 in this budget book. There's a item for health and safety capital asset. It seems to be that there was a request for $150,000 that wasn't budgeted, but on the next page under corrections phone commissions, I see that that was added under there for the same item, health and safety capital asset. Is that just being moved elsewhere in the budget? Is that the same thing?
Yeah, that's the radios, our staff radios, and the reason, reason why I put that there is because when I first arrived, we didn't have radios in the jail, and we went out and purchased 50 radios, and we still short on radios. And you know how important it is to have a radio when you're inside the jail. And so my goal is to get an equipment room. So right now we have contractors. They building a wall over at the CJC, and also they building us a equipment room. You know, this is something that's needed because people are misplacing the radios, and that's why I believe they were so short on radios. Now we're trying to hold people accountable, making sure that they have the radios, sign them out, and sign them in.
So it just moved to a different part of the budget is the same amount. Okay.
Yeah.
And similarly for facilities and ground services, noticed that there's been a decreasing amount in the past few years. Is that just being shifted over to the facilities and ground services line under the jail facilities improvements category?
What's that? Can I call Ms. Fraser? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's, we have a grant for the shower project right now, and they not completed with the project. So what's gonna happen if they not completed by, I believe, October, that we gonna have to pay, you know, for that shower project, and it won't come out the grant. So right now, we started when I first arrived, but they had this project, I believe, over a year before I arrived, and we just getting to it. So, and this is what's going on with that. So that's what that amount is for right now.
Okay, that's helpful. And then last question I have for you is in the personnel schedule on page 297, there's a title 2333, Correctional Classification Assistant. There's been 8 positions that were budgeted for. None of them were filled last year. We're rebudgeting 8 positions this year. I'm just curious, what is that position?
So on them 8 positions, we took 4 of them positions and put people back into where they supposed to be because they had them labeled as correction officers. So now they're gonna be labeled as classification instead of correction officers because they're not correction officers. And so that's what's going on with that. And then also the other 4 will be part of the classification unit that I was mentioned earlier about classification. We have a supervisor down there, and we just have 1 classification case manager down there. So the 4 that we want to hire, they're going to be part of the classification unit. And just to let you know, this is an important piece of a jail. You know, every jail should have a classification unit. You know, and right now we don't have the complete unit, but we do have a supervisor that we just promoted about 2 months ago.
Okay, that's helpful. And does that mean then we're short of officers then?
Oh, you said are we short officers?
Well, you said they were classified as officers before, but they're actually not that. So do we need to hire people to replace the?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so the 4 that we moved, so that's going to be 4 more officers that we can have in the building.
So that'll help those numbers as well. as we
Yes.
hired. Okay. And then last question I have is, I'm just curious. We employ 2 full-time locksmiths in the correction facility. Is that accurate? Is it just that the locks require constant maintenance, or I didn't realize we kept 2 locksmiths on staff at all times. That's always what I'm reading in the budget.
No, so what I did was I asked for another locksmith, but we never did hire another locksmith. The pay didn't match what people was looking for, so we could never hire another locksmith. And my goal was to get another locksmith because we had so many problems with the locks. And so when this other locksmith go home, they call him in the middle of the night. So I wanted someone to be there, you know, on the second shift. So that was my goal, but we didn't hire that other locksmith.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
Alderwoman Tanya.
Thank you, Chairman. Hello, Commissioner. Nice
Hello.
to see you.
Nice to see you.
You've been here for a short while, but I do just want to start by saying that I'm impressed. I've been following just your ability to kind of staff and do hirings in the department. I think if I'm understanding correctly, you've been able to get upwards of 50 folks hired in your area, in your department.
Yes, that's not including support staff. I believe it's 10 support staff also.
I'm very supportive of those efforts and happy to see them. I think that a lot of the issues that happen within our CJC, specifically the deaths that happen, a lot of times what I hear is a lot of the ability to kind of catch things proactively really depend on your manpower that you're able to have on the ground in real time. So I'm happy to see you moving in that direction. I did just want to ask you in general, what has been your process for getting that 50 hired, and just some details that might be helpful for us to know as a budget committee. I think the hiring is something that a lot of departments mention is kind of a struggle, particularly you got to get a list from personnel, you have to, that kind of process involved. So I would love to know your thoughts there and how you've managed to get 50 folks onboarded in such a short span of time.
Well, what I usually do is when I get home about 7, I just get on my laptop and start putting up all our different positions at CJC on the LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all the social media, and then people will apply, and we'll contact personnel, asking personnel, how many people we have for this position, and then, they'll send us a list. And then also we had 2 job fairs. So this helped out a great deal when we had the 2 job fairs. The first job fair we had here at City Hall, we had 28 people apply, and then we had 21 that we interviewed.
Okay, that is excellent, and also echoing the 14 hires that you had yesterday and the promotion of the 2 folks are really good to see. So knowing that you've been able to hire that, I'd say one of the things that does surprise me in your budget is it does look like the biggest cut in your budget was actually for officer positions. For CO level 1, you asked for 133, there's 113 being proposed. And then for CO level 2, you asked for 26, there's being 21 proposed. Is there any context you want to share with us as a budget committee as far as your conversations with the budget director and what that discrepancy is? Or if we were somehow able to get you, your manpower on the ground, is it really impacted by not having the acts? Again, a lot of my core interest is definitely the safety of the folks in the facility and how we can prevent issues. And so I want to make sure, especially since you've demonstrated an ability to hire, the proposed budget that's in front of us, specifically for CO level 1s and CO level 2s, do you feel that it gives you what you need to keep everyone as safe and have the quality of, care that should be within our detention facility?
Thank you for asking that. No, I don't think the number that we have right now is keeping everyone safe. So just to let you know, like I said earlier, 2025, I believe the budget was 133 staff members. Now we have more residents, and now we bringing down the number of staff that we can have. Also, I want to mention, fully staffed at CJC, the number should be 195. Okay, minimum staff is 150. So I went lower because of the budget and said, can I have 133? And so the proposed came back with 100 and I believe 19. So that really took us down bare minimum. So we can't function with that amount of staff. We're still gonna be short.
Understood. And then I know you mentioned sort of something that we see in other departments is when folks come, sometimes they get their training and then they go other places. So has any issues with your correction officers been related to, have you also had issues with bringing folks on board and them training them and them going to another municipality that might have a more competitive pay?
Yes. So St. Charles director and St. Louis County acting director, we all meet and talk. So we have several people that went out to St. Charles. in St. Louis County because of the pay. So they'll come here and get trained, and then they'll go to these different organizations because of the pay. And that's something that I didn't want to bring up because I knew that we was going through a budget crisis right now. So I didn't ask for extra pay for the COs. That's all I've been doing is trying to hire more. And that's what we've been doing since I've been there.
And one of the positions that I see in your budget, or I guess you didn't get it, but it would be the PREA coordinator, which for folks working at home, a PREA coordinator is it's a Prison Rape Elimination Act, and it is a role that follows up on complaints of sexual assault, sexual harassment, things of that nature. I think it's pretty key. It's a pretty standard position in most other municipal detention facilities. It's also needed for a lot of the certification standards within the facility to show that there is a standard of care that's being maintained. It doesn't look like that was granted to you, so if you could share more with us on the PREA role, if you think that it is needed for you to have operational excellence and to actually be able to follow up on. I know that we have had, any context around sexual assaults reports we have had, and if you feel like the budget in front of us, and particularly not having that role, does it allow for you to do what you need to do in terms of protecting staff and following up on complaints, which as a facility you are obligated?
Yes, the PREA coordinator is important inside of a jail setting for staff and also for residents. If anyone touch someone inappropriately, the PREA coordinator does an investigation, and that role is important because they follow up and they have the experience to know the questions to ask, and for residents or staff wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Right now, we have a major that's filling in this position, and since I arrived, this is something that I wanted to put in place, a PREA coordinator. Every jail should have a PREA coordinator inside the jail.
Is there a conflict of having a staff member that is serving as a major also being the PREA coordinator? Isn't that typically an independent role?
Yes, it is. It is an independent role.
Okay. And is the major trained to do this? Because I guess what the committee needs to know is just, is that actually work? Like, are you just doing what you have to do to say that you check the box, but that we should actually be aware that you really do actually need someone to solely do that role? Or does the major get the training and somehow able to avoid what might be some conflicts there?
No, so since I arrived, this was the position that they had in place. And I'm not sure if the major is trained to be a PREA coordinator, and I doubt if a person is trained to be a PREA coordinator without having that experience. So this is why this role is so important to have at the jail, because then you'll have someone that's trained and educated to do the job properly.
Thank you. And do you know, since your tenure, how many incidents have you had of sexual assault that you can recall?
I want to say at least 5, probably, at the top of my head, probably about 5.
Okay. My next question is also kind of connected to accreditation. There's a accreditation manager. I've just really been learning all about this because I really care about what happens inside our jails. We got residents that are really active, and there's been a lot of concerning things that have happened, and a lot of my constituents particular just made this an interest. So I've kind of been able to learn about what are the standards and places that there are in other municipalities that we may not have here that are impacting the outcomes there. And so I saw kind of the accreditation managers, the ACA, the American Correction Association, if you could speak to us about the accreditation there and the role connected to that and provide some light to what that specific certification is.
Yeah, accreditation managers is very important because they keep you updated on all the procedures that need to be done inside of a jail, to keep you updated on like the chemicals that's in the jail. They let you know, the operations of the jail, what we doing wrong. And the accreditation person keep you updated on different areas of the jail, making sure that we compliant to ACA rules. So that's important because right now we don't know if we in compliance or not with the rules because we don't have that person with the knowledge. Just going off of what I know and my administration know, that's what we going off. So we need an accreditation manager inside CJC.
And is that a position that's pretty standard around the country? And specifically, is that a position that exists within the county and within St. Charles?
Yes, we had an accreditation manager with St. Louis County. I was there for 32 years. We had one there for that long.
And then my last question is kind of tied to the facility. I had an opportunity to get a tour a while back, and one of the things that we discussed is actually that the cameras that you all have in the facility does not fully cover the parameter of the facility, and that there are some blind spots. And so, is there still blind spots in your camera technology? Is there something in this budget that would allow for you to address that? I think that, you know, we're not the best ranked jail, we're one of the worst ranked jails in the country. And so I know that surveillance and footage and being able to see what's happening is important. And so just wanted to check in on those blind spots. Do they still exist? And if they still exist, is there something in the budget in front of us that will allow you to get the camera to make sure we have no blind spots?
Yeah, so we do still have blind spots, and we've been working on trying to update the camera system, but we're gonna need more into that budget to make sure we get completed with all the cameras inside the jail, because some areas don't have all the cameras properly working correct. And so this is one of our key things that we would want, completed. So
Was that granted to you in the budget? Is there funds for that in this budget that's being proposed?
I believe we did put this in the budget, but I'm not sure if it's
Approved.
approved. Yes,
Do you know how much that costs specifically?
not off the top.
We can follow up off record. I'd definitely be interested in getting that number. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, yeah.
Alderman Devotie?
Commissioner, it's good to see you. I don't know that you and I have met, but it's been enlightening listening to you this afternoon. So thank you for coming before us and educating us about what's happening at the Justice Center. I do have a couple of questions. One of the benefits of asking when I do is I get a lot of times to play cleanup. I found it very interesting about your discussion of detainees from the beginning of your tenure just this past September to where we are now. And if I understood you, when you began, we had 680 folks at the Justice Center. By year's end, we were up to 726. And the most recent number available to you was 793 detainees. Does that sound about right?
Yes, sir.
What do you, as a layperson, and I'm not in your profession, but that amount of increase over a relatively short period of time, 7-8 months, that seems like a lot to me. What do you attribute that rise in prison or jail population to during that period?
More crimes on the street. I believe that's we deal with more people coming to the jail whenever things happen outside, and everybody get dropped off at the jail.
So more crime, and I guess by implication it means that more arrests are being made and more folks are being held at the Justice Center, essentially waiting their day at court. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. To provide us a bit of context or perspective, what is I don't know the right way to ask this, what is the maximum capacity at the Justice Center?
I believe it's 8,067, but that includes adding boats, something like that, like adding in the cells.
How many? Well, maybe another way to. How many beds do you have at the Justice Center today?
You mean Phil? Oh,
Well, Phil, I'm guessing you've got 793. How many beds do you have available as of today?
okay. So we have, if you subtract 1,000, 60? Yep. So 1,067. Yeah, that's the capacity, 1,067, and right now we have 5. So it's like, I would say 85, somewhere around there.
I didn't hear you, I'm
80
sorry.
85 beds,
85 beds,
yes.
okay. When you talk about fully staffing, I think you mentioned that ideally you would have
Thank you.
195 CO1s on staff. Is that right?
For fully staffed,
For fully staffed?
yes.
Correct. The minimum from your standpoint is 150 CO1s. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Can you educate us a bit? I think it's important for us to understand why the ideal number of fully staffing the Justice Center is 195.
Can I share the paperwork with you?
Please do, yes.
Okay. And also, I want to mention that with the mental health unit, you know, they're in cells alone, so you have to keep them separate.
Understood, yes. From an educational standpoint, again, when we're looking at the proposed budget for fiscal year '27, how do you, as a professional in your field, come up with the number 195 as an ideal fully staffed unit?
So what I did was, I went and put, you have the bubbles that's at CJC. So you put you have 4 bubbles up in each unit. So you put 4 officers in that bubble, then you put 4 officers down low on each floor. And then you have your officer that's at the unit control, and then you have a lieutenant on that unit. And then also inside the programs, they have an officer with the program. And so that's 1 unit. And so that's what I did with the full.
So when you say 195, would that include both correctional officers 1 as well as 2? In other words, also management or supervisors, correct?
Yes, sir.
Understood. I get it. You used a term of art on me. Bubbles. What's a bubble?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
The
you're
bubble
fine.
is what the officers sit in. It has like the control area where they hit, you know, they push the buttons to let the doors open. And also, they could look down at the officer that's conducting the tour. And that's what I mentioned when I said bubble.
So let me ask a better question. When we talk about ideal, fully staffed correctional officers 1, is that the number of officers that you requested, 133?
Yes.
Okay. And of course, when you talk in terms of historic precedent, looking very, very recently, I believe that you mentioned in '26, we had 133 CO1s budgeted. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us from your standpoint, and I know Alderwoman Sanier asked about discussions with the budget director, but what concerns do you have should the budget as proposed be adopted and you have at your disposal funds only for 113 officers or CO1s?
You said,
What are your concerns?
my concern is that the jail is going to be understaffed, you know, and that's my main concern. Some of the areas where you should have officers, you know, and then also it's going to be more officers that have to work overtime and getting locked in, and that's where we at right now.
And so at the end of the day, you must provide minimum staffing. If you have less officers on staff, that is going to by necessity lead to overtime, correct?
Yes,
And of course, when we pay overtime, that increases the pay for our officers or the expense to the city. Fair statement?
yes, sir.
Okay. To make sure we're all on the same page and we understand the importance of a CO1, we probably shouldn't be assuming. Can you tell us very generally, what are the duties, the responsibilities of a CO1? What role do they play in the operation of the Justice Center?
Correction officers play an important role inside the jail. They basically they have to document all the information after they conduct their rounds and tours. They making sure the housing unit is safe and secure for the residents, making sure no one is getting jumped on, making sure that that everyone is doing everything they're supposed to do, following the rules and the regulation inside the unit. And then the person that's up in the bubble, you know, they managing the controls of the housing unit. You know, whenever that officer at the lower level asking the officer about it, you know, when they call over the radio, asking them to open up cell 8, open up cell 15. So this is some of the roles that they play up in the bubble.
I know you share Alderwoman Sanier's concern for the safety of our detainees. That's something that I'm also concerned about. From a safety perspective, it sounds to me that adequately staffing, fully staffing the Justice Center with CO1s, those folks that have the most and highest day-to-day interaction with the detainees. Sounds like that's essential. Would you agree?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then secondly, again, to make sure we're all on the same page, what is a CO2? How does that position differ from a CO1?
So the CO2, they the supervisor on the unit. So they also have to go inside and conduct tours. They usually with the medical staff. When they go inside the units, they have to go in, and whenever there's altercation, that two have to go in and make sure that this altercation doesn't get out of control. At the same time, they have to protect their officers that's on the floor, and also the CO2s have to complete a report at the end of the night of what happened on their unit.
We've talked a bit about detainee safety and health. You just referenced the need from time to time for medical care. I know we had a very serious issue this past year with respect to providing prompt transport of detainees requiring medical care from the Justice Center. Have issues been ironed out with the sheriff's office with respect to that particular aspect? That is the transfer of detainees demanding or needing medical care.
So right now, the sheriff department is short staff. We short staff also, but what we agree to is when they send one deputy, I send one officer to help them. So this even make us more shorter than what we already are. So this is what's the problem that's going on too.
So from one perspective, that's very good to hear. There is collaboration between the Justice Center and the Sheriff's Office to address a demand and a need that has popped up. I'm very, very happy to hear about that. But then having said that, that would seem to support your request that, again, CO1s, I assume it's a CO1 that is making that transfer. All the more important that particular position is fully funded.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I know you mentioned to us, and I am not a numbers guy. I'm not a numbers guy at all, so I do my best to follow all the details here. You made mention at one point, of course, the requested budget by your office was $40.7 million roundabout.
Yes.
The proposal, after consultation with the budget director, is $33.9 million roundabout. I understood your testimony that you would be happy with 36 million. What was that? Did I hear you right? And if I did hear you right, my follow-up question is going to be, where do we need to find that $2 million? Is it for personnel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then that goes back to, all things being equal, I can live with the proposed budget with one exception. Guys, I need you to fully fund my request for CO1s and CO2s. Are we on the same page?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Okay. Okay, you used another term of art. This is maybe out of the budget discussion a bit, so I apologize. But what is a classification unit?
Okay.
You are giving me too much credit, at least.
Yeah, so a classification unit is a unit that's down in your admission area, intake area. These case managers go through the queue of asking questions. And this is when you meet with the detainees, when they come inside, you ask them, have they ever been, ever tried to commit suicide? Are they on drugs? Have they complete high school? It's just a questionnaire, and that's the part we missing. And so these detainees are not getting what we need.
Okay, so now I understand why that particular person or position is so important, because it helps you identify from the moment the detainee walks in the building their special circumstances that helps you prepare to house them for whatever period of time they're under your care, correct?
Yes, sir. And also, I forgot to mention, you have to classify them by the cases also. So that classification unit will classify them instead of having people mixed together. You classify them and keep everyone where they're supposed to be. If you have like a level 5, level 4, level 3, different things like that.
Thank you. I appreciate the education. I do have one comment. I know you made a reference to tablets. And our Justice Center is unique, I think, in that we don't have any outside recreation or access area. And I guess that would then go to the importance of having things like tablets available to detainees. Would that be fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just for what it's worth, and I did have some discussions with, and relatively recently, I don't know if this hits your desk or not, with respect to detainee tablet use. And my one request of you would be that we look at, or you look at, policies of outside communication. In other words, I am aware, and you may be too, but we need to nip it in the bud of detainees reaching out to, harassing, inappropriately contacting victims. And that's something, and I'm sure you would agree, it absolutely must stop. And once it comes to your attention, the appropriate person's contention, it's got to cease, right?
Yes, and I can comment to that. When I was a deputy director at St. Louis County, the prosecutor would call me and let me know, and that person would lose their access to calling the victim right away, ASAP. And so this is something that we're doing also at CJC. You know, we're not going to tolerate that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Commissioner, again, I really appreciate your education and information.
I appreciate
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. A few questions. Sticking on the tablet conversation, what all does a tablet offer if I'm a, what is on that tablet?
So right now we have download the grievance form process. That's something that, you know, went away for a while. So we have that going. Also, we have education, different education programs that's on the tablets. We also have, right now we working on oversight. I know they trying to put something on there too, on tablets that our IT people is working on too. We have, you know, your regular Netflix, you know, different things that they can, you know, watch on TV. It also has like They could do video chat with their loved ones and messaging with their loved ones also.
Okay. And it sounds like you're working with the DFOB board. I heard you say grievance. One of the things, who did that, right now, if they write a grievance, who does that grievance go to?
So right now, it's going to our IT and our investigators right now, because what we're gonna do is, once it's in place, it should go to the case manager that's on that unit.
Gotcha. I love the idea of working to get, hopefully with the DFOB, an independent process. I understand that you got in-house, but it's good to have opportunity for them to probably send it to somebody who they feel wouldn't share that information with the correctional officer that work within that department. You know, that's I think glad to hear that there's that coordination going on while there is a grievance process. But if somebody gets it, the CO know that an inmate sent something on them, you know, retaliation is real no matter what department it's in. If it's here at the Board of Aldermen, or, you know, it's always good to have independent eyes on that. Going to Correctional Officer 1, so it looks like this year you, as we continue to say, you asked for 133, you got 113. The year prior, about 85 was actually occupied. Out of the 113 right now, and it sounds like you've done a tremendous job of actually filling those positions. How many are CO1s are filled out of that 113? So
Right now, I have, let's see what my paper, here it is right here. Right now, I have 85.
So you got 85 filled.
85 filled.
I guess during the process of, and maybe this is like a budget more for Paul Payne or maybe yourself, say you fill those 113, there could be an opportunity for you to go to the budget department or ENA and request, hey, we need 5 more positions. That is another way to get those, correct?
Well, yes, that's what I mentioned also. That's what I did in St. Louis County. Went back to the county council and asked for more.
Okay, because I know that we're talking about the filling of the rows, which is extremely important. But I think maybe one of the things maybe the budget director do is he look and say, well, have you historically been able to fill the rows? And if we can't get up to that, let's give you a cushion, but let's not give you the full thing just yet until maybe, you know, there's a track record, and not necessarily on your end, but I think probably is done with various departments of, let's give you some, but maybe not in Paul's conservative and good, but not give you all. Going to the recreation, yes, I think our CJC is one that, as we know, there's no outside lighting or things for them to do. However, there are, and I've taken tours of the CJC, there are spaces where residents could go to a pod or a space and play basketball or whatever, a handball. Last time I went in the facility, I think I've said it before, the balls was flat, there was no hoops. So even though there's no outside space, it doesn't seem like in the inside recreation space is available either. Could you give an update on where we are with those inside recreational spaces for residents?
Yes, sir. So when I arrived, the gates that's inside the units that comes down, we just had all that fixed because all the gates was broken. And so we also put the basketball hoops that you mentioned. Everyone has a basketball hoop. And now we're in the process of, on the 3rd floor, we letting them go to rec. You know, we doing it like in moderation right now to try to get everything under control, make sure we don't have no hiccups. And this is what we're doing because we finally got the hoops up.
Okay.
And new basketballs also.
And last question, what is the lockdown time for residents? How many hours do they get out?
Well, what we've been doing is we've been going in sections. So we'll let one unit out for 3 hours section, then we let another unit out for 3 hours like that. Because when I first arrived, we didn't have no type of order. And then on second shift, we let them out, you know, 2 hours and then another group out. for 2 hours.
So if I was just in one unit alone, when you say 3 hours, is that 1 hour in the day, 1 hour in the afternoon, 1 hour in night? What does that look like?
I'm sorry, you said,
When you say units, I'm assuming you talking about like the whole pod.
yeah.
So that unit, you let that unit out for 3 hours, but you don't let them all out at once.
No,
So if I am a resident at the CJC and I'm in unit A1, how many hours am I getting out a day? Just me, not the whole unit, me as one individual.
yeah, you should get out the 4 hours. out
4
there.
hours?
Yes, out of that, because you're gonna break it down on first shift, and then on second shift, you're gonna come out also.
So I typically would come out during when? The daytime, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, like is,
What you mean? You're gonna come out in the morning. We start letting them out at about 7 in the morning, and then the next group will come out at 9, and then on second shift, they'll let people out at 2:30, and then they go from there.
if we have more correctional officers, I know in the past the CJC would let, and I think Ms. Ross, am I saying that right? Ms. Ross is there. I know post-COVID has changed things, but I would love to see us get back to a place where it is safe, that we're not doing 5 here, 5 there, 5, you could let them out more and then they'll have more time out. I think the more we keep them in, that's where you have, frustrations build up, anger builds up, and then you see some of the things we had. So are we working to get back to a place? Well, twofold question. When we was letting them all out, were we understaffed? When the whole unit,
Yeah.
to either,
Yeah,
and if you could speak on the mic,
yeah.
and just say your first and last name.
Deputy Commissioner Tammy Ross. Back then, we pretty much had staffing, and the structure was a little different, where instead of having a bubble, we had direct supervision. There was always an officer on the floor to monitor that. Right now, the way it's made, we have the bubbles, which is an officer upstairs and a person rovering. What we need with those extra correctional officers will be staff to monitor the rec areas while they're having rec inside those rooms.
Or we looking to get to a place where we go backwards, where we let the full pods out, which would, I guess, give them more hours out too, instead of doing this side, the back side, and left side,
Yes, we will be able to do that with a lot more staff, because we need staff to monitor those 80 people that were on the floor. We need at least probably 4 officers to do that, at least rovering in those areas.
Okay. This is my last question. I think we all say this up here, like one more question. The programs, could you just quickly go over some of the programs that the CJC offer?
Yes. Also, I want to mention also about, we have a talent show. I'd like for you to come up, the guys up in 3A. They usually do talent shows, different things like that. And I think it's awesome. The guys be singing gospel, doing different poetry and comic acts. So I think that'd be nice if you want to come up and see that.
No, absolutely. I know Ms. Ross and I have been over there a couple of times, from Clemens Abdullah to Burris, always willing to come over and just even sit down and talk with them.
Yep. Okay. So, so some of the programs that we have right now, like I was saying earlier, since we hired Reverend Gray, we've been, increasing our programs. But right now we have prisoner reentry program, we have addiction recovery program, the anger management counseling program, we have bridge program, we have high set GED program, English second language program. We have the Missouri ID support services that's started May 1st. This is another great program. We also have like bus passes for these guys when they get out. When they get released, they don't have to just stand around in front of CJC anymore. They could get bus passes and leave from the area. So this help out a great deal. Also, we have Jacob's Ladder Ministry. That's a behavior change for success. Justice Movement. And right now, Alderman, I'd like you to know that we have so many programs now at CJC that we have a waiting list. because we have a lot of people that want to participate and help out. We have the Surf Save program that I mentioned, the Veterans Program, Unlock Labs, that's with the laptops. They go inside the MP room and they, get on the laptop. Also, we have pending right now construction, a program for residents to learn how to do construction. So this is coming soon. That's what I was telling you we have a waiting list for. And then also, we have a waiting list for the Chess Master Program. I know Reverend Gray been working with him on that, so they supposed to be coming. And also, he has a program, assessment, evaluation tools for programs and services that he's been working with this group on. Then you have the Catholic Mass that come by weekly. He has the different Baptist church groups that come in, Muslim groups. So he has a lot of different programs that's going on over at CJC right now.
Are y'all working on an honor wing?
Yes, that's the one with the talent show.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'll be in contact either with you, Deputy Ross, to come over, and then I'll probably utilize the ordinance that I passed to do like a surprise pop-up, so we can not have all the it's super cleaned up and everything. But I appreciate the work that you.
Alderman, stay clean.
Okay. I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna see it again.
Come on through. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Deputy Commissioner, and the whole
Thank
team
you.
for being here.
Appreciate you, sir.
All right, we're gonna move right on over to the next department that we have as we stand kind of around public safety and corrections. We actually had a Department of Civilian Oversight here with us to present their budget. And Commissioner, please come on up, state your name. You can state who's here with you and can go straight into your budget, and we'll pull up the presentation.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Commissioner Dr. Barbara Milan, and joining me is our program manager, Ophelia Hughes. We also have our government analyst, Datlin Badesi, and we also have Louisa Lyles. And Louisa has a long-standing experience in regards to our office and also supporting investigation procedures, protocols, and other city offices. So we are happy to present to you today our fiscal year 2027 budget. The mission of the Division of Civilian Oversight is to conduct thorough investigations, support building public confidence in civilian oversight by promoting transparency, fairness, and public accountability through impartial and independent professional standards and inquiries into allegations of misconduct. Our vision is a city where trust, accountability, and transparency define the relationship between law enforcement and the community through independent oversight, policy recommendations, and meaningful public engagement. The Division of Civilian Oversight strives to enhance public safety, fairness, and justice in St. Louis. We have two budget pillars, but before I go into that, our primary functions are to investigate complaints, review operational causes, and provide recommendations. Develop policy recommendations to address systemic issues and practices in corrections operations, ensure that detention facilities operate under safe, sanitary, and respectful conditions that protect the rights and dignity of detainees, the safety of the public, as well as the CJC workforce. Develop education and outreach materials to inform the community. Our accomplishments include: we were invited to provide an assessment of Fort Bravo at the City Justice Center. We have created and implemented a program that supports public awareness, our roundtable program. We established a strategic partnership with Harris Stowe State University including internship placement, the publication of the Division of Facility Oversight Board Annual Accountability and Quarterly Reports, the publication of the Civilian Oversight Board Annual Report, the analysis of misconduct allegations during the years of 2020 to 24, and completing required training for staff and board, and establish partnership with regional oversight offices in Kansas, Ferguson, and Columbia, Missouri. Our budget, we have requested $1.144385, and it has been proposed $1,158,330. The budget will support our office to support operations and administration. It will support the creation of a comprehensive administrative manual. This manual requires dedicated resources to codify procedures and requirements. The development of the manual is a great need. It is crucial for the division's operational efficiency and long-term sustainability. The manual will incorporate existing policies, procedures, the intake flow chart, the intake handbook, and other related oversight documents into a single cohesive document. The codification will enhance operational efficiency. It will create a tangible document that is vital for enhancing training, building the intellectual capital of the Division of Civilian Oversight, and the ability to quickly and accurately train new staff and ensure all personnel are following standardized, documented processes is paramount to DCO's mission. The budget will also support us to attend a mandatory annual conference provided by the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement Conference. We are a member of NACOL. It provides monthly training, and it provides the certification of our investigators. We did not attend the conference last year, but it is imperative that we attend the conference this year. The budget pillars, our pillar 1 is investigation, complaint, accountability, and review. For the first time since the Division of Civilian Oversight was established in 2015, our investigators are able to interview and meet with the men and women incarcerated at the City Justice Center regarding their complaints. Additionally, our investigators have been invited to CJC for the dorm rep meetings. I am scheduled on a monthly basis to meet with Commissioner Hayward. Currently, our investigators are in the process of reviewing our files from the early part of 2020 up until this year. We also are seeking we have evaluation metrics that we have established to support Pillar 1. Pillar 2 is related to public awareness, building trust and legitimacy. The strategy outlines a comprehensive community outreach plan, which is responsible for investigating complaints against corrections personnel. The primary goal is to build and maintain public trust, to ensure accessibility to the complaint process, to foster productive relationships with diverse community stakeholders, and effective outreach is essential for increasing transparency and encouraging the reporting of misconduct. We are in the process now of updating our brochure with assistance from one of our detention facilities oversight board members and also involving our staff. We are also looking at other updates as it relates to our display banner and, yes, our display board and our display banner. I am happy to respond to questions that you may have.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will say, if you and your team can send over the PowerPoint, I think the PowerPoint you sent to us was the FY26 budget one instead of the FY27. even though we were able to follow along with some of those numbers. It would be good to have that so when the public want to go back and look at the presentation, we have the actual updated one. Starting in order of seniority, I'll start with Alderman Browning.
Thank you. Let me start by saying I think civilian oversight is a very important role. It is necessary to have independent and people-oriented oversight on any position of power. And for many positions of power, that's the voters. But for the police and our detention facilities, those are not elected officials. And so we need to have an additional way to make sure that any complaints are properly investigated and really fleshed out so that everyone has their rights protected and really make sure that we are treating people with the respect they deserve. My question is, the latest state takeover law for the police essentially made civilian oversight in the city, it's essentially blocked oversight in the city and said that the new Board of Police Commissioners is that oversight. How are you operating in light of that new law?
Well, thank you for the question. I will say that two things happened besides the state taking over the police department, is that our volunteer board, the Civilian Oversight Board, has reached out to the state board on several occasions and has not received any response. One of the requests that I know that our chairperson made was just the possibility of meeting with that board to introduce the Civilian Oversight Board. So as you have pointed out, Alderperson, it is imperative that there is oversight. We have provided an analysis of misconduct that goes over several different years. And the trends are going up in terms of misconduct instead of going down. Our board was scheduled to hear the presentations by the investigators regarding the complaints, and that was when we had the change related to the state taking over the police department. So our analysis reveals that the need for oversight is not diminished by jurisdictional shifts. And between 2020 and 24, there was a steady rise in documented misconduct allegations, specifically regarding uncivil treatment, abuse of authority, and discourtesy. The evidence is of grave concerns. Of these three categories alone, account for nearly 40% of all the complaints. The likelihood of future incidents indicate a moderate to high likelihood of misconduct. So while direct investigations are not able to occur, we still must have indirect oversight. We have a board of volunteers who are continuing to meet in spite of the fact that we really don't have a relationship with police. Now, I have to say, before the state took over, we were able to meet with SLMPD on a monthly basis. That was very important as a commissioner and new to the city and to this role for us to establish that relationship with SLMPD. We even had Chief Tracy attend one of our programs along with other hierarchical representatives of SLMPD. So we think that expanding the scope of public safety is important. We need to be addressing root causes, and we also need to support information to the public as well.
Thank you for that. And I think I'd just add to that and say that this state law, which I hope will be found invalid and unconstitutional, it is just another example of how it flies in the face of justice and public safety in our city when the Board of Police Commissioners, which is itself stated that they're basically there to be to approve what the police ask for, to give them what they need, but also just to not question them at all. And it's laughable it's not funny, but it's laughable that they think that board would be capable of being able to properly do oversight, especially with the blatant conflicts of interest some of them have. So I hope that the work that your board does can continue to proceed. It's good that you continue to collect records in the meantime of the complaints and the issues where people may have had incidents of disrespect or harm being done to them, and hopefully we proceed in this case and are able to have some accountability in the future. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Are there other questions?
Alderwoman Sanye.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for being in front of us today. We've certainly had a lot of conversation about the this board in particular quite a bit. So it's definitely great to see you in front of us and be able to get some things on record. I don't really have many questions. I was wondering, just in preparation for today, I was looking for the most recent report I could find was from FY25 for annual report. Is that the most recent, or is there another one?
Yes, it is. And we are in the process of, we're putting together 2025. And our published reports were for the periods of, I'm going to have our government analysts come up so we can give you the exact information, but the published reports for detention facility oversight was of...
It's FY25, 2025 is the latest one I could find.
That was the oversight for each board. Yes. DFOB, I'm Darlene Bedesi. I'm the government service analyst for the Division in Oversight. The oversight report was published for DFOB for fiscal year 25.
Okay. Is there anything, my questions are really just kind of broad. Is there anything based on the reports that you all are finding that you've just kind of been focusing on implementing or putting into place? I see just kind of like general recommendations for them in terms of improving transparency and complaint handling and things like that. So we'd just love for you all to speak to any of the ways that you focused on some of the recommendations of that report.
We have a mandate to make sure in regards of our file system and information that it is reaching the high standards in which we seek to operate. We have found, and we've had an analysis regarding some data information in which we could not establish the validity of the data. We also are seeking to make sure in terms of the procedures in which the investigations operate that all of that information is in writing, that it is up to date, and that it is in our file system. That is the standard in which we are seeking to operate, and at the current time, we know we need to work on that. So I have been instructed, focus on our file system, and we are going to do that. Do you have anything else to add?
I think that was really my only core question, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I love my job. We're doing good work. We are absolutely thrilled that the City Justice Center doors have been opened for our investigation, and you will be hearing more as we proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I was just going to end it by echoing one. It looks like your budget, if anything, is pretty. Actually, you requested less. You got a little bit more, probably some just errors in salaries. It looks like mainly everything from That looks to be the difference mainly in the salary range. Like I say, probably was just an error there. Everything else from materials to rental capital, leases, non-capital, computer supplies, everything is the same as you requested you got, and as well as staff, you requested 11 and received 11. So I also echo, I'm glad to see the cooperation between the DFOB board and the CJC. Hopefully that continues. As soon as you guys get the update of the report, please send it out to the Board of Alder, because we like to have that information as this board under Clark Hubbard, who started the legislation and then I amended it, truly cares about oversight, even though we struggle with what that looks like with COB, with the state control. But thank you for being here, and thank you, your team, for being here. And I think that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll take a recess into 2 p.m. Take a motion.
Second.
Moved by Alderman from the 9th, seconded by Alderwoman from the 7th. We go into recess to 2 p.m. All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
The license, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I'd like to do an opening statement. And so the License Collector's Office is authorized by Missouri state statutes as a county office in a city not within a county. And we are instructed to license businesses that operate in the city of St. Louis. Accordingly, we are a fee-based, revenue-generating office that is not funded through the city's budget. Our fiscal year runs from June 1st to May 31st. In the last fiscal year, from June 2024 to May 2025, we collected $74,729,181 and distributed $72,283,5,100 to the city of St. Louis and various entities as directed by not only the Missouri state statutes, but also the city ordinance. And so, Mr. Chairman, you provided us with some questions, and I'll go over those. I think it's about 3 or 4 of them.
Yes, ma'am.
Question number 1, budget overview and changes. Summary of the FY 2027 budget requests and key changes compared to FY 2026. As stated in my opening statement, the License Collector's Office has no budget request for the city and appears before the Budget Committee to offer a picture of our yearly revenue projections and to assist the city in the preparation of their budget. Primary cost drivers, major factors contributing to issues, increases or decreases of the budget. Our response. Major factors contributing to the increases or decreases in our budget are driven by the rise or fall of the number of businesses in the city. And so on any given day, you can have just as many going out of business as coming in as new businesses. Question number 3, staffing and operational capacities. Our current staffing levels, vacancies, or it says current staffing levels, vacancies, and any proposed changes. Our response. Our staffing is at a manageable level to operate sufficiently to serve the city's tax-paying business community. Question number 4, priorities and service impact. Key priorities for FY 2027. Our response. Presently, our key priority is working through the current migration of City Hall's new automated database, as well as the software operation system such as CityWorks and PayIt. And B, how the proposed budget supports these priorities. Our response. Our budget supports the hiring of our own in-house consultant who provides reasonable expectations for our operations for the upcoming year. And so we have to hire a in-house IT consultant. And question number 3, part to that is any anticipated service impacts based on funding levels? And our answer is no, because again, we are not funded by the city's budget. That's all I have. Any questions, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Madam License Collector. I will give you a gold star. This year, we did it a little different by sending those questions out to each department to kind of have them just anticipate what the questions are. And so far, it's the first week, but you're the first to actually answer those questions outside of the budget. It wasn't mandatory, but I'm sure like in high school, you always did the extra credit. I feel like this is extra credit, +5. Vice Chair Browning?
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. I don't have any questions for you today. I just want to appreciate your work in your office. You've continued to just prove that public service is the best way we can provide for our city and our residents. And I appreciate the smooth operations that you continue to make sure happen so that we can keep having business, commerce, and recreation in our city that keeps it moving. So thank you.
I appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Alderwoman Sanye?
Thank you, Chairman. Hello, Madam License Collector. I just want to thank you for your work and your service to our city. I've definitely enjoyed the opportunities I've had to interface with, particularly while I served on a red tape committee. I appreciate some of the things you brought forward about, I think some broader policy conversations about some of our licensees process, but your budget seems pretty straightforward, and I just look forward. Thank you for being here in front of us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alderman Devoti?
I'd like to just echo what my colleagues have said. Your office runs like a top, does what needs to be done, and is efficient. And that's all we can ask for. So thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
One just quick question. So I know the city doesn't provide funding to the license collector office. You all provide funding to the city. How much do you provide annually to the city of St. Louis from the license collector office?
Well, for the last year, those are the figures that we put down for the question. No, it's in our opening statement. And so again, for the fiscal year, our fiscal year runs a little different. And so from June 1st to May 31st, and I will repeat. And so for the 2025 fiscal year, we collected $74,729,181. And we distributed out of that just about everything except for the $2.1 million that we are allowed to keep from each license type to operate our office.
Gotcha.
And that's a letter and everything that we submit to the comptroller's office, every year.
Thank you. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for your team, and thank you for the work you do. I think what is amazing about this office, outside of many things, you could just stick to the just having folks have licenses and doing that kind of 9-to-5 thing of collecting that. But I know your office go above and beyond, not only just making sure folks have their license, but you do a lot of supporting the small businesses in the Rotunda. Usually that's on payday, so there's no excuse for folks to not support small businesses, but uplift those small businesses that are on the Rotunda. You have forums that also inform people in the community, especially our seniors, on the different resources that your office and the city offers. This is one of the offices I've also had the pleasure to see and work firsthand. It's very professional. It's very hands-on with supporting folks try to cut the red tape of getting licensees. You have also worked, I think, which is extremely helpful from this board, but have worked with the board and been collaborative when it comes to legislation. And just thank you for your leadership. Thank you for coming today. And thank you for running a very tight, good, accountable ship at the License Collector. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. With that includes the day. We have the Board of Aldermen meeting tomorrow, and then we'll be back at it next week. Everyone has a schedule for folks watching. That schedule is also online. Any written testimony, Madam Clerk?
We have none.
Any announcements? Seeing none, no members need to be excused. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Can we get a second?
All right, somebody wake up. Moved by the Alderman from the 9th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th. All in favor, aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Goodman?